Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Quick pace to this game in the early going. Drew already with 4 second-chance points. They won't need any here. Braden Smith, that's his moment. And perfect off-ball defense, long enough. Oh!
Goodness. And a takeaway and an easy 2 points from Jared Phelps.
Now Heisey measures up.
Anderson off the field from Federico. JT Topping's going to be a good three-point shooter, though, but it's not going to be on fadeaways. Lob City! That's how you get a freshman going coming off his career high. You get him out and run, you get a lob like that.
Big miss down low.
Indeed, Jake Davis only 6'6", trying to guard a 7-footer down there. Nice cut.
And a nice flush from Winter.
Good start, though, for BYU.
Trevin Nell. Too strong on that one, but the offensive rebound, Kata for BYU. Richie Saunders launches a three. Himself needs a timeout.
You know, obviously our urgency has to be way better than it was in the first 20 minutes in this game tomorrow night. You know, Northwestern, I give our guys a lot of credit. They found a way to reverse it, but we cannot put ourselves in that position and expect to have a chance to win.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
Well, how we doing?
Oh, we're doing all right.
Yeah?
Better than Kansas, I think.
Yeah, they got their doors blown off.
Yeah.
You knew, first of all, The Rock is very, very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Dwayne Johnson.
Or the movie with Sean Connery.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking. No, their student section.
Yeah, yeah.
That was incredible.
BYU does seem like a pretty legit environment.
Yeah.
For games.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
sure I'd want to go to school there,
Football, and you're not a rule follower. And apparently a lot of those athletes aren't either.
But I'd fit right in.
But that's okay. I'm not here to judge. No, it was electric. You know, when they came out and hit the pull-up from the wing.
Yeah.
I said, oh, shoot.
Might be a little trouble.
That's point number 1,000 for this cat. He's out here bowling. And it was downhill from there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bad basketball last night.
Yeah, there really was, which is disappointing because the slate looked okay.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be I thought it was gonna be pretty good. But it was amazingly sketch.
It was a little sus.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
Yeah. I don't there's a it's good. It's good.
I know Michael listens sometimes, so I want to try and speak to him a little bit.
Apparently we're the only school district with a late start. I don't know what Millard's doing. I think Millard is in school.
Millard did a late start. I saw
so Millard is a late start.
Yeah.
Westside is a late start.
Yeah.
Everybody else is chilling at the house.
They're just out.
Man. Well, OPS is going to do remote start. I don't really know what that constitutes.
A remote starts? How does that work?
So you are going to school
online for the first 2 hours?
It's not a start. It's just a remote learning
okay.
day. So I don't know.
So they just do like they did the last 2 days.
Yeah, not really at school though.
Okay.
But I do think if Westside wasn't in school if Westside was in school the last 2 days, today they would have been out of school. Doc Lucas is not really that guy. You know, you're going to work.
It's physical. It's hard. It's cold.
It is. I don't know who's getting on the bus.
No, that's not ideal.
So, I mean, you could probably miss me with that.
Can't leave those kids out there at bus stops.
Only good thing is, man, the pups are much more efficient.
Dude, for sure. Mine are in and out.
Unlike their dad, who's going to do a show with no notes, nothing.
You're like, this situation is giving me anxiety, and I'm not even the one without the computer.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
I just know, like, if I didn't have a computer, it would make me uncomfortable.
I am encouraged.
Yeah.
I am encouraged. I think
the old Rolodex pretty good. You'll probably be all right.
Yeah, I get confidence from people thinking that I'm good under duress.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm under duress. Look, we got to do it.
You just got to buckle in.
People think I'm good at this.
Get competitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little warmer in here today.
Yeah. See, this is why I am a very much a creature habit. Doing a lot of studying last night with car situations and just really trying to maximize expenditures and stuff. And Caleb's lease is just a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I had to do Sports Nightly. So I brought my computer inside, which I've been meaning to do for a couple of days because it's too cold just to be leaving in my truck in the garage.
Probably.
Or whatever you call that stupid thing out there. And so I brought it in. And now you figured out why I leave it in my truck.
So you don't forget it?
Well, I didn't even know where it was. So it's fine. I mean, it's fine.
To be fair, I come home, I put my bag in the same spot every day.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't lose it.
Is it out exposed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we could live together.
It's been a battle with the wife because she doesn't like having things out.
Yeah. Me and Natasha would get along. Hurrdat. High five.
And I'm like,
if she's up.
Oh, she's awake.
Listen, so I move a particular bag every day.
Whose is it?
It's not mine.
Oh, super happy.
It's not the kids.
I was gonna say, I think Zoe's too small to have
Even
a backpack.
she knows. She comes home. She takes her lunchbox. It's not even a lunchbox. They have like these newfangled things. I wish I was a kid again because I could take some nice lunches.
Yeah.
They had something for everything.
Yeah.
I was worried about whether it was G.I. Joe or He-Man or it was going to break if I dropped it.
Oh, you used to have those old plastic deals, right?
With the clasps.
Yeah.
It wasn't even plastic. It was like metal.
Oh, you had the metal one.
Dude, I'm old.
They had plastic lunch boxes when you were a kid.
Only the cool kids did. That was like a thing when we were little. We would go lunchbox shopping, like when we went school shopping,
because they had cool lunch boxes back in the day.
Yeah,
they weren't super effective or practical, but they look cool.
Yeah, and even she knows, like,
putting that bag away.
But the bag goes on the counter. I'll clear out what she didn't eat. Backpack goes in your room on the hook.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we just do what we want to do. There's three constants in our house. Since you got me started, there's gonna be a bag in the corner.
Micah's or Jay's?
It's not Micah's.
Okay.
Inevitably, and maybe this is my OCD. I'm willing to say, DB, lighten up.
Yeah.
The microwave.
Yeah.
It's never going to show the time because whatever goes in the microwave, we don't let the time run out. We pull it out early.
Sure.
And we close the door. So the digital scroll across the clock banner will say
like 14 seconds or whatever.
It has a message and it's the same one.
Oh.
And I should know it because it's on every day. I'm like, hey, we can either just do the proper time and let it go out, or you just go cancel. Boop. Every day. Every day. It's incredible.
That's a battle I've resigned to.
And inevitably, there will be 3 different things. Like, would you need 3 of these?
I'm not really one to talk.
Okay. Yeah, so
I've got kind of a collection.
I don't think Natasha wants a new roommate, but anytime I was like, maybe we should swap. There's going to be 3 of these somewhere in the vicinity of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it has a different thing in every one. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe it's water. Maybe it's meat. I don't know. It's just unnecessary.
Well, I mean, sometimes you want something different to drink.
Oh my God, get out of here!
So I got my soda.
My Gatorade.
Although this is terrible. This is new.
You went out on a limber?
Well, so we went
cold brew.
Yeah,
that's not even your style.
It's not. It's not.
What would you get? Wild hair?
So we went to Costco last night.
Ooh.
Or yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
And
a lot of new things at Costco.
So that's the problem with Costco. Is I love it. It's a wonderful place. Yeah. I'm sure Sam's Club is nice too. I don't have a membership there. But they don't always keep the same stuff. They change their inventory sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And so I'd been getting, my energy drinks, and there's 2 different kinds of energy drinks that I typically get from there. And the one they didn't have anymore, so
Okay.
I was disappointed.
What are you rocking?
That was the C4s that I usually rock.
Yeah, we got to talk about this. That's fine. I mean, you could do you.
And the other one is I'm kind of over the Monsters that I've been drinking.
Yeah.
And so that's why I switched to C4 because, I get burned out on them. They didn't have the C4s. I didn't want to go back to the Monsters, and so I'm looking for something else that's got a little energy kick to it to start my mornings off, because I'm not really a morning person.
I know you've said that, but you've gotten up early for quite some time. So at what point will you transition?
I think never. I just deal with it.
Too old to
Yeah, like that's not – if I'm left to my own devices, I'm not getting up at 5:30 in the morning ever for any reason.
I understand.
And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll do – I don't hate iced coffee. So I was like, maybe I'll do a little iced coffee deal. And
is that cold?
It is cold. I'm hoping – so the thing I got was like a multi-pack. I'm hoping it's just –
Is that to be not to be confused with multi?
I don't know what that means.
Did you say multi-pack?
Multi-pack.
Okay, T.
Yeah.
M-U-L-T-I.
What did you think I said?
I don't know. We can run it back.
Multi?
Didn't sound like multi.
Moldy-pack?
Might have been the dialect.
Yeah, man. I was born here.
No, I meant from 120th and Dodge.
We do talk different over there.
Clearly.
So I'm hoping in the multi-pack.
There you go.
There's a few different flavors. So I'm hoping just the caramel sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned. The first sip was very concerning.
Isn't caramel amazing? It's one of those things. It's like the proper apple flavor. When you find the right one, it's
really good.
It is spectacular.
When you find the wrong one, it's horrifying.
It is. Need a paper towel. Delicious. You get bad caramel. It's really, I think I'm out for a year.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
You should have seen I got my
almost
pace.
like Kansas last night.
I got my pace game right. I'm already a little stressed, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I finally had, because I always make fun of people that say I have a craving for.
Yeah, because you don't really do that.
Because I don't really get those, I don't think.
I randomly do, but not often.
I had no idea what I wanted yesterday, but I went, if I was still at home with my mom, she would have come in the kitchen and said, "Stop opening and closing things. Figure it out."
You were just trying to see something that spoke to you.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was, but here's what I went through. I wanted bread, I wanted a sandwich. So what did I do? I pulled some chicken. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I pulled. There's a bunch of pulled chicken.
Yeah,
and I took the worst cheese ever, Colby Jack.
Not a big Colby Jack guy.
It's just okay. It's safe.
It is. It's safe. That's fair.
It's not really spectacular.
That's how I feel about American cheese.
And I don't remember the last time I bought American cheese.
I don't buy it, but if it's on a burger or something, it's whatever.
Yeah, not happening.
I'll go cheddar over American for sure, but American's safe. Anyway, continue.
And so I had a couple of I just I ate it out of a paper towel, and Zoe comes over. It's probably about 8:05, and she goes, "Ugh, that looks gross." That's what you figured out? Kind of looked over my shoulder and I was like, it's in my head. I'm like, if you think this is what I really want, I was about to rationalize with a 6-year-old, but I was so disgusted at what she said. It was all I could do to compose myself. So because for dinner, I made this.
I'll tell you what the rest of the crew have.
So it was kind of like it was like a Philly cheesesteak thing.
Yeah.
It was made in one pot, but I didn't put it on anything. I just ate it out of a bowl.
Sure.
So it's just melted cheese. I did this, man. I'm gonna go back to it because it was easy. And it was a good cut of meat. Actually, you get it from Costco. It's sliced thin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. And but I was hungry because, of course, we're 59,000 years old, so we ate at 5:05. So by 8, I was like, but I just, you know what I really wanted?
What?
I wanted to, this is stupid, but so is everything else I've said this morning. Ideally, I would have had a Twix, and I would have found a way to get all the chocolate off, and I would have eaten the caramel and the cookie. That's what I wanted.
That's very specific.
It is unbelievably good.
So Natasha will do that. She'll eat
I'm not going all Dan Orlovsky where he like you've seen those on TikTok.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going a little Dan Orlovsky.
Dude, Ryan Clark was mortified.
He eats like a psycho.
Well, I don't think it was so much that he ate around it like that. I think is that he was spitting it out in public as a grown-up.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it was the whole thing.
Listen, you no.
I think it was the whole thing.
Mix in a napkin or go home. You don't spit food out in public as a grown-up.
Maybe freeze it and then cut the.
So that's the Twix thing.
Yeah.
So Natasha will like eat a peanut butter cup, but she'll just like eat the chocolate off of it, and then if there's too much peanut butter, she'll just have like a little bit of peanut butter and she'll give the rest of the dogs.
So far this morning, her and I are vibing, so I'm gonna let that one ride.
But now, if I go to eat a peanut butter cup, the dogs run to me like they're getting peanut butter. I was like, no, I'm eating this thing. What are we doing?
I had to grab a few quick groceries yesterday, so I picked a particular store because Zoe wanted a craft. So I don't know if you've ever been at home by yourself with a 6-year-old all day.
I have not.
Yeah, but anyway, so just tried to kill 2 birds in one stone. So it's like, I'm going with Dad, which is cool, right? So
yeah.
On the aisle, and I needed some like those Hawaiian rolls, but I didn't want sweet. I wanted like the savory butter ones. So just catty corner or across the aisle is like the peanut butter and jelly thing. And this little girl is fascinated by, there's like 3-in-1s and 2-in-1s for peanut butter. The jelly's in the peanut butter. There's chocolate and peanut butter. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah. They have like a Nutella one.
Those can't be good, right? It's like the 3-in-1 TV VCR. It's gonna break in like 2 minutes. The hedger trimmer, like those things don't last. Like the all-inclusive encompassing peanut butter thing is legit.
I've never had them.
It looks awful.
The only close thing I've had is my Uncrustables.
I mean, they had chocolate and peanut butter. They had, strawberry jelly.
Is it like in the bottle?
It's in like a it's in
like a jar,
like you'd get Jif or something else.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no,
They got something for everything.
Yeah,
but I don't frequent that particular grocery store a ton.
I mean, they're everywhere. It's not like exclusive.
Yeah,
those are out.
Not like going to Aldi's where it's like a goddamn treasure hunt.
Never know what you're gonna find in Aldi's.
Dude, best wish is getting the same thing twice in a row at that spot.
That's true. Again, that's the problem with some of the like Costco. Getting the same thing twice can be a little tricky.
Old Reserve sharp cheddar cheese. Although in your household it would last for 6 months, in mine it lasts about
a week,
6 days. It's sharp cheddar.
We get usually,
and you get the paper in between, so you don't get the sticky cheese.
Oh, so yeah. So we'll usually do like the Tillamook.
Tillamook is fire.
Yeah, we'll do Tillamook.
I tried to turn Degenerate Aaron on to Tillamook.
Oh, Tillamook's good.
Yeah,
Tillamook's good cheese.
It's legit.
Yeah,
they have good. Shane, grow up. They have good meat products too.
Yeah,
like
over Costco.
Yeah.
When I was doing
beef,
I smell like beef. Yeah. When I was like powerlifting and stuff, I'd get a lot of my like ground beef and stuff over there.
I meant like snacks, like beef
sticks. Yeah.
Tillamook is legit.
Yeah.
Are they like Old Pantry? They're like a brand.
Yeah, it's a real brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out of Wisconsin, I think, which is a pretty safe place to get your cheese from.
Yeah. Big Wisconsin guy.
Yeah, you know me, just like you're a big Canada guy. Great White North.
It's not very white, I can tell you that. Just ask him. My bad.
Seems pretty white. I don't know.
Hey, where's all these students that applied to go to school here? It's like, where are they? What do you mean they came over on student visas and didn't actually go to school?
Shoot.
Sorry, I'm going to stick to sports. Just people running loose.
I mean, you got, we out here, right?
That's where the magic happens. I had so I'm over it with Pat Costello this morning.
Yeah, what do we have this morning?
He's over. I felt like you'd get a kick out of this because it would be like me with the Steelers, where you talk about somebody that's like not really that good.
Yeah.
Every day. It was Dak Prescott, and they were chewing him up over, and we kind of just glossed over him saying that they're close to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Pat was beside himself because he's the third best quarterback in his division. And it got some pushback from, not really from Canty. Michelle was like, this guy's pretty good. 2 years ago, he's all pro. He's 36-9. Like, he's a good quarterback. And Pat was like, yeah, but he's still the third best quarterback in his division.
I mean, I'm not going to fight him on that. Like, I think that's right.
Oh, Ravi here for being a Jalen Hurts fan now.
I'd take him over Dak Prescott. But I also said Dak Prescott couldn't win the Super Bowl. But I'll take Jalen Hurts over, if nothing else, because of age. Like, I'll take the runway with Jalen Hurts I've got going forward as opposed to Dak Prescott.
What's Dak? 29? 28?
103. We're gonna look up Dak. Dak's 31.
Okay. And Jalen's 26. 5.
You're right.
Jalen's
26. Yeah, I'll take the 5 years younger.
Yeah.
I got more runway. And obviously you're taking Jaden Daniels if he can stay healthy, which you can't really assume not being healthy.
I'll be looking for a CJ Stroud benchmark for year 2 for Daniels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gonna be interesting.
And then, I mean, honestly, if you're listening to any of the trade rumors that are all in the NFL, he might end up being the 4th best quarterback in his own division.
Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to pull off that Matthew Stafford deal because they don't want to give up the number 3.
I'm still floored. And until it happens, I'm going to continue with my mouth agape.
Of being like, why would the Rams do this?
Yeah. I wonder what their master plan is.
I don't know. Because if you get rid of Stafford, maybe they like one of the guys at 3. Maybe that's why they're so insistent on getting this year's. Maybe they like Cam Ward or Shedeur. I don't know.
I don't know.
Somebody's going to talk themselves into one or both of those guys.
Okay.
Like, I mean, that's just the history of quarterbacks in the draft, right? Somebody's going to convince themselves that one of those dudes is the guy. And I can understand why. I'm not sitting here thinking either one of them is generational, but you can understand the skill sets of being like, oh, I really think that could translate. It's not for me. Probably not at number 1, especially. Not for me.
What was that?
It's not for me. It's the face I make when I drink this coffee thing.
It's the face you make watching Red Panda every time she performs at the half.
So are you just gassing DeMarinis up, or are you? Because that's like his corner.
No.
Is that yeah? So Matt DeMarinis, our dear friend, White and Blue Review, his corner.
Did I said that to you guys, right?
Yeah. That was in that group.
Okay, because
you, me, him, and Jacob.
So I'm going back and forth with our other buddy.
Okay.
The bald guy that does promotions.
Yeah.
And he called me a hater. I'm like,
well, he's enamored because he became part of the show. So
I'm
he
like,
can't be.
She's 78.
Is she really?
1,000 years old.
Okay, so can I? Since we're not on,
didn't we in our former life? Didn't we talk to her?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, we did.
Probably.
I was just getting started.
All right, we're not on the air anymore, so I feel like I can say this.
That was A&M. That was the A&M Mississippi State game, right? It was the bottom right corner of the 4 box. I'm like, how is this? I was scared for her.
She just did the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game.
Oh, I saw it
a couple days ago. Obviously, she's kind of on her tour right now. And which, like, if you can only work for a couple months out of the year, like, that's a good gig if you can get it, right?
Yeah, I was never mad at Paulie's.
But, like, I don't know how old she is. It seems like she's getting up there. I think she's lost her fastball.
Dude, I saw I'm pretty sure I was at a basketball game sitting on the baseline at the Devaney.
So we're going 20 years ago? 18?
I'm fairly certain.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the other problem.
I was terrified. I was like, hey, straighten it up.
Lock it up.
Hold her on the waist. Get her. I was terrified.
And she was only 68,000 at the time.
We're talking Methuselah.
I feel like, I'd feel better if we had Asian Wyatt here for this conversation.
Why?
Because
they might not even. That's a reach.
No, listen. So I know everybody's like the black don't crack.
Yeah.
There is no possible way to tell how old an Asian woman is. It's impossible.
Just killing everybody.
That's a real thing. There's no way to tell.
Oh, man, that's tough.
Red Panda could be 15 or 500. I would have no idea.
That's tough.
I would have no idea whatsoever. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Live here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and reminding you, make sure you're out there driving safely. Keep those eyes focused and straight ahead. The roads are getting better. The crews have been out there trying to clear things up, but it was spritzing a little bit when I was coming on my way in, so be careful out there.
So you're right. I was coming down through the neighborhood, and I went to turn by your favorite kind of sketchy looking gas station.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I slid a little bit.
Yeah. Be careful out there.
So there are some spots where you may think they're okay, but we're gonna not pull a solder and have my microphone on.
We're out here, right? But yeah, make sure you're keeping safe driving distances and safe speeds. This message brought to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So we've got some controversy following around the Red Panda here.
Okay, holler at your boy.
So her Wikipedia is unsure of when she was born.
Wikipedia is trash.
Listen, it's the most reliable source of information we have on the internet.
I thought TikTok surpassed the Google search.
Maybe, but I think Wikipedia is still pretty reliable.
Yeah.
In Wikipedia, we trust. But
how do they give out the passwords to that?
What do you mean?
Can't anybody update it?
Yeah, there's no passwords.
Well, I can't just. Well, how do I access Wikipedia if I want to change something?
You just hit edit the page.
That's not true.
Yeah,
you can't just be a free for all.
I think you have to have an account, but you can edit any page. See?
I don't
right
believe
here.
a word you're
Right
saying.
here. Read, edit.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
I'm never going back to Wikipedia again.
No, but then they fact check it. And that's
who does?
Wikipedia does.
All right, carry on.
Because they'll have
making me
stuff.
mad.
They'll have edits that don't get approved.
Okay.
If you don't have sources for it and everything, it's a whole thing. But here's what I want to tell you, okay? And I know this from personal experience with some of my family, is if there's an or in your birth date, they have no idea how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
That means at some point you came to the United States and they had to pick a day for the government. And they did their best probably, but they don't really know.
I did my best, but I guess my best wasn't good enough. That's too old for you.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Just once.
Is that like one of those songs you sing at one of your churches? Or
No.
Oh, okay.
One of my churches.
Well,
I'm just collecting them, knocking them off. Blinded
well, I mean, you got all the
that guy can sing, Shane.
You got all the different denominations just under one roof with your Methodists and your Episcopalians and
my mind's telling me no.
Your Africans and your Americans
whoa,
under
whoa.
Well, is that what AME stands for? It's African, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you don't whoa me.
I don't remember seeing a lot of quote unquote Africans in our church when I was little.
That's the name of the church. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I get it.
It's called African Methodist Episcopalian, right?
I get it.
So what? I don't know what you want me to do there. Yeah, I mean, I didn't
try not to get choked.
I didn't name it.
No, I hear you.
So I tried to call it American, and you looked like you were gonna walk out.
Considering I'm half Iowegian, it's not true.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I don't even know why I would say that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you were feeling a little self-deprecating in the moment. So, yeah, what's the worst thing I can say? Part Iowegian.
Ooh. Oh, dang, he's out by Eagle?
Who?
KP.
Oh, all the way out there in Eagle, Nebraska?
Yeah, it's snowing.
Where is Eagle?
And I see Thrill's back.
Yeah, I saw Will in there. That's nice.
Good to see you.
I think he sometimes catches up through the pod. But yeah, the point is we don't know how old Red Panda is. She's certainly not as old as, or she's certainly older than her Wikipedia says.
Yeah.
That's what we went an in-depth investigation during the break, and we've definitively concluded that that's not the right date. That's our research. We should put that on Wikipedia. Say,
no, I don't think you can do it. Otherwise, right. I think Eagle. I think it's.
I'm looking at.
Now I'm directionally challenged. So, but I do remember driving past because I did a speaking engagement. I think it's east of Lincoln.
East of Eden.
Yeah, I'm nuts.
Big John Steinbeck guy.
I don't even know who that is. I assume that's an author.
He wrote The Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, that book was apparently pretty boring and thick. I'm not reading that.
Yeah, East of Eden was similar but less famous.
John Steinbeck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you're correct. He also wrote Of Mice and Men.
Oh, now that I know.
Yeah.
That I know. I know that very well.
He is. Yeah, you're correct. It is east of Lincoln.
Yeah. So there's a raceway out there. That's how I know.
Oh, like a little track?
Yep. And I was coming back. Didn't I tell you this story? And the seats are kind of alternating colored, and I felt it was the middle of the day, and I felt like somebody was there, because if you look at the seats when you drive past, it looks like they're occupied.
It looks like they're filled. Okay, yeah. I get that. Okay. I don't think you told me that.
I think a lot of things in my head that don't actually come out. So
that's probably for the best.
But that's weird. That's how I remember that place.
Is from the raceway?
Yeah. Again, when you have poor study habits, you just make things up to remember.
I don't think I've ever been to Eagle, Nebraska.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of races.
Well, I don't even remember where I was.
You were just driving by?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one out by, where is it? So out by Ashland, I think. Mm-hmm. There's a raceway out there. Kind of in the middle of nowhere across from a gas station. You know which one I'm talking about? Like if you're coming home on Highway 6 from Lincoln, the Ashland exit will take you right by it. Like the first Ashland exit will take you right by a speedway. And then it'll take you down by Parker's.
Oh, the smokehouse?
Yeah.
That's over the way that I go.
So it's a little west Ashland.
So the only time I go that way, sometimes they won't let me get back on the interstate from Lincoln, but usually I'm there long enough because I have to do the fifth quarter and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Where I can get back on 80. But twice I stopped to see our man Les. He wanted me to stop at Romans.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, I need to go back and get some of that seasoning.
What kind of seasoning was it?
So I don't really know what it is, but I put it in my eggs.
Really?
Oh, it's...
Is it like steak seasoning?
Yeah, but I wouldn't. So for me, I wouldn't use it for, because it's very, it's like dusty.
Oh, it's like a rub.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have huge flakes.
Okay.
I could see you would use it as like a rub, but it's not going to get you a crust.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's got great. It can encompass a lot of things. Like you could put it in. I mean, if I was making homemade mashed potatoes, I'd probably put it in.
Versatile.
There. Yes, it's very versatile, and it's a fairly decent sized bottle.
Because I don't usually do like steak seasoning.
Yeah. Oh, you know what you could do for me?
What?
You can come organize my seasoning. Are you good at that stuff?
No.
Oh, that's right. You're kind of a loose cannon. I have to figure. I need a better system. I have at least.
You need to have Natasha come.
God, she'd be mortified. And it's high.
Like the
and
shelf
she's
is
little. Yeah,
she's not tall.
She'll
like hop up on a counter though.
No, she could use Zoe's stool.
She's not that little.
I mean, you know,
she's like 5'4". I mean,
that's teeny. Did you like that picture that Amber drew of the show?
That was nice.
Yeah. I hated mine, of course.
We need to get updated
she
photos.
Needs to fix my cheeks.
What's wrong with your cheeks?
She made it look like I had storing walnuts in there.
Well, you gotta store it for winter. You know, it's cold out.
Listen, man. Going on about 10 straight days now. I see. So the minute we made the firm decision to go digital, you were practicing getting out of pocket. You've gone from bad to worse to incorrigible. I mean, just out of control.
That's a good word.
You just hit me with the black don't crack and just didn't skip a beat. That's inappropriate.
For who?
It's inappropriate.
That was a compliment.
You know, he got cracked on a run play.
Oh, that's funny too, Matt.
I mean, that's complimentary, I think.
Yeah, I got your complimentary.
Incredible skincare routines.
Got your complimentary.
You know, I needed a frame of reference, you know, for Red Panda. I was trying to figure it out, you know.
Yeah.
You know?
How
How what?
I was going to ask you. I'm just trying to get to this. We have freedom for breaks.
Yeah.
And Shane's just going to kind of do his thing for a while, so I'm going to follow his lead because he's the boss. But I think we need to talk about Barthel and that contract.
I think we might too. Apparently, he's not getting fired.
Knock it off.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla, more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here, wrapping up hour number 1 on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we are reminding you to get out and check out our friends over at the Omaha Supernovas. Supernovas.com is where you can get tickets. They're coming off of a 3-0 sweep on Sunday against San Diego, and they will be back in town a week from tomorrow at the CHI Health Center. Make sure you get out to supernovas.com to get your tickets.
Man, speaking of tickets and CHI.
What's up? You buying tickets next year to see Red Panda already?
No, I might have to buy tickets for next year to state wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's over. So even my buddy, like Brett and like they're coming in town.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to him about tickets, and he's like, yeah, and his kid's wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, did you get extra tickets by chance? I'll explain why in a sec. He's like, no, we really didn't get them as a team, and my seats are terrible. I was like, wait, I guess I won't be sitting with you.
Yeah.
But how terrible is terrible? He's like, as high as you can go. And I was like, oh, my gosh. I don't know if I would go. I would really question the love of my kid.
Oh, for sure.
So,
but I don't like kids that much. So that,
no, I know.
For me, it's be like, yeah, it's on Nebraska Public Media, right? Yeah, we'll be good.
So,
I'll drop you off. I'll be across the street.
Apparently, like a tenth of the team, Nebraska, like wants to go watch Tyson.
Sure.
So Ryan texts last night, and he's like, "Hey, yada yada yada. Any chance for some extra tickets?" I was like, oh, I don't know why. So he told me. And I asked, and by the way, I can't believe we didn't get Ron Higdon. Shane, we probably should, just because he's the GOAT. So I was like, we are pretty good chums. So I sent him a text, and he's like, yeah, Friday's going to be tough. You know, probably can't get seats, but Saturdays is maybe doable. And I'm like, how? I want to know, for people that are going to state rest, like, how far in advance did they procure those?
Yeah.
Listen, because I mean, there's nada.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
Nada.
It's
Do you know how many people that's going to hold for wrestling?
Because it's more than basketball, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll put people on the floor too.
It's going to be mob deep.
So I mean, you're probably talking what, 20,000?
Yeah.
Which is for 3 days.
It is the, and I know I don't think I'm biased because you think it would be towards football, but it is the best state event.
Well, you can get in. You've got your little NSA credential, don't you? So you.
I have to do for more than just me.
No, but I mean, like for you personally. You can get in,
yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah,
but and I don't care if I sit because I can't anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna pace regardless.
Yeah.
So
and I want to, you'll
see a bunch of different stuff. So you'll walk around.
I want to see Lordson. I want to see Ziola. I want to see
obviously
Tyson. Yeah, but I think that's cool that a lot of the team wants to come see him.
No, that's super cool.
And I was saying this yesterday, and I know wrestling isn't like super in your wheelhouse. I think it's not only cool him growing up with us and him and Caleb and Donovan and those guys being boys, but this might be one of the most I think you could make the case this may be the most dominant run in Nebraska high school wrestling history.
I'll say because he's going for some unprecedented
4 in a row.
Because he's what, like 160-something?
66.
Yeah.
He's been a heavyweight since he was a freshman.
Which is crazy.
That's the thing.
Like that's crazy.
That's the thing.
Because heavyweight's what, 275?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So it'll be the first potentially 4-time heavyweight.
Yeah.
He's got a shot at the state pen record.
Because that's 13?
Yep, Dwayne Martin.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you tweeted that out. That's 40 years ago now?
Yeah, 85. That record has stood since 85.
That's crazy.
And he was, I mean, that's Tech's finest. Like that, you talk about wheelhouse for a kid.
Omaha Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dwayne, that is wheelhouse. That is hallowed ground for me.
Sure.
So I'm like, oh, and it's Mike Tyson. Knowing good and well that dude's significantly tougher than me. There's nothing about it, but it's just a great. It is
one of the cooler and like I like wrestling. I don't know that much about wrestling. Like I like watching it. I watch it on Nebraska Public Media pretty much every year. I really enjoy watching the events. I don't have a great. It's kind of like hockey. I like watching hockey. I'm pretty into the Four Nation stuff. I like watching it. I don't have a great grasp of it the way I do some other stuff.
Yeah, selfishly, pay attention to Lordson, Ziola, and Terry.
Yeah.
You can see what I'm talking about with Ziola.
Yeah.
Yeah, those long levers.
Got the condor arms.
Strong as a mother. Like he would be miserable.
The thing that I can't believe a freshman was strong enough at heavyweight.
And he's pinning his way there.
Yes. Like that's crazy.
And he's just short of 2 records because he got such a late start because he was hurt. Coming off the knee.
Old knee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are the other records he's going to be short of?
So
total wins.
Total wins.
Yeah.
And some more pens.
Sure. So 13, that's across the 4 years.
And state.
Right? Yeah, at state only.
Yeah, you shouldn't be pinning your way to state
championships. No, those should be a little more competitive than that. Who's the biggest competition?
Slim to none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be.
Yeah, slim. And I get it because a couple of my, so obviously, a bunch of old heads because it's right. And I think the only pushback I got when I talked about most dominant was I think people may bring up a little the level of competition, but I don't.
Sure.
I don't.
I also have a hard time.
I don't.
I also have a hard time because like, okay, level of competition is something that's totally out of your control.
Yeah.
And things may have seemed more competitive when you're less dominant. Like, I don't know what you want me to do there.
And I just the way he's done it, how good he's been.
Because you guys get that a little bit with people that aren't paying attention to like 95 Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
But like, go look at the ranking of the teams that you guys beat.
Oh.
You guys beat their heads
for a while. I think we had the most top was it top 20 or 10?
10, I think.
Wins.
Because there's 4, I believe.
Yeah.
You had 4 top 10 wins over the course of that season. And people look at it and go like, oh, well, maybe Kansas State wasn't really that good because they're not marquee names that people are used to seeing in the top 10. But that year, whether it was Kansas State, because Kansas was ranked that year too, weren't they? I don't know if they were top 10, but they were ranked. And you mollywopped. Is that?
That's probably one of the few. I think I can say this now, past the statute of limitations. That's one of the few games I think we chuckled at.
Really?
Oh my God, those guys are supposed to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, laid down.
Yeah.
Laid down.
Let's be real here. Like, I remember I was watching this live as a kid in the Fiesta Bowl, 1 versus 2, right? And people, like, they're literally giving the overtime rules at the start of that game because they're like, oh, this one could go down to the wire.
Everybody thought that.
I know, but that's why, again, I don't know what you guys were like internally.
Not that.
But, right? And because I'm guessing you guys looked at their physicality and you're like, oh, we're going to beat their heads in.
I think everybody's different.
Sure.
But kind of like my sphere, we kind of went off like real time Coach Solich.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he would just show these plays and blitz pickup and going into contact. And as these guys are runners, but they're not hitters. It's the same thing he would say about like Ray Lewis. Like Coach Solich was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Like he would have you thinking. That's why I have irrational confidence.
Because of Coach Solich?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't,
you weren't going to make it.
Nope.
Yeah.
And everybody else would make fun of you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, get this guy out of our room. But the other thing was Coach Osborne was just like, and for him, it was kind of like talking trash.
Mm-hmm.
He just said,
whoa.
I did too. He'd just say, he's like, if we just do what we do, we'll be just fine. And we're like, ooh, burn. No, ask her. I know that sounds ridiculous.
I get what you mean,
but he was so understated.
Right, that if he said anything that definitive.
And that seemed the only other time I could remember when he drew up to play at Colorado before when AG scored, and he said, now, if we block this right, we're going to get this. And on the back side now, Makovica, you're going to have to hustle, but this could be a big one for us.
So he's basically like, hey, if you block.
And it was one of the few times we went over a play again that close to being in the locker room. Usually the proverbial hay's in the barn.
Right.
So.
But if he's like, hey, if you block this right, we're taking it to the house, basically.
Yeah, he just one more time. And I think you got to ask CJ, you got to ask Clester, but he maybe changed the motion into the boundary. It was something like, it was like one little subtle deal.
There was, so speaking of Makovica, that play came across one of my social media accounts.
He got 2.
I think he got 3. Because he gets 2 immediately, and then he gets one down because he gets 2 at the same time, basically. And then he gets 1 downfield.
So that wasn't by accident, right? We do this attack and adjust drill.
Yeah.
And obviously the attack part is self-explanatory, like you do the dictating. But adjust is hitting moving targets.
Yeah.
So he called it the attack and adjust drill.
Yeah.
And keeping your feet was part of it.
Sure.
After
because you can't get another guy if you're on the ground.
If you're on the ground.
Yeah.
And he would throw stuff at our feet, and you'd have to collision and stay up. Like, that stuff was intentional.
And
he ran through without really breaking stride.
He did. He ran through 2 guys and then went and got a third without breaking stride. And he stayed in front of AG for a long time. It was pretty fast.
Another miserable guy to practice against.
Makovica?
Yes.
Yeah, I could imagine.
All of them.
All the fullbacks? Yeah, it didn't seem like they took a lot of plays off.
No.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Live. We'll be back with more coming up next with
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer, Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, you got guys walking into Ace Hardware without their shirts on.
Brian Christopherson.
We got a pretty good sewing circle in this state.
Brian Christopherson.
To me, it's like crunch time, baby.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, what's going on?
Oh, how are you guys doing?
Oh, hi, B. How we doing? Are you warm, buddy? You staying warm?
I've been in my basement since Sunday with the flu, so I've stayed warm, but I feel like the Silver Linings playbook when the guy has a trash bags on and is just sweating constantly. That's the state I'm in right now.
Oh, my gosh. I did not foresee a Silver Linings playbook reference this morning as I'm getting ready, BC, to ask you about Tyson Terry.
I'm ready.
Okay. Silver Linings playbook. BC, your range is incredible.
This is like BC's flu game. We're getting Jordan game 5 against Utah right now.
Yeah.
BC, so again, you're a North guy. You were there. You're very familiar with the run, the heyday, what wrestling means to that school. I'm making the case here that this might be the most dominant run in Nebraska high school wrestling history. So I'm going to start there, but I'm going to ask, how differently would we think of Tyson Terry as a recruit and a prospect if he hadn't committed so early?
That's a good question. Probably if it had been more drawn out, there's always I think more fanfare around it when that person does end up committing. So you're absolutely right. Whenever a kid announces when he's like 16 years old, we sometimes take for granted how talented that guy is. And yes, I do think if he completes it this weekend, you would have to say it's up there. And I would say the most dominant performance in high school history, because he's done it all as a heavyweight, which is incredible to come in as a freshman at that weight and dominate like this. It's a special thing for me to watch because I did go to North High, but I also I don't want to act like I was best friends with Ryan Terry, his father, but I knew that circle and I covered that team in 1999 when Ryan Terry was a sophomore and when he won state.
He was at 52.
Yeah. And Ryan Terry, his father, was an incredible wrestler. And that team, coached by Curly Alexander and those guys, it was just dominance to the fullest degree. So whenever I see North guys do well, that means a lot to me, Damon. And Tyson Terry has been someone who he could have went anywhere for school too, I'm sure. And they were very loyal to North, and he's had some amazing results for that program, and I know it means a lot to that community.
BC, I also wonder, DB mentioned how much we'd view him differently if his recruitment played out differently. I also wonder how we'd view him as a recruit if he was from like South Dakota or Missouri instead of Nebraska. I feel like because we talk about kids, like would we just talk about him the same way we were excited about Nash? Because I feel like sometimes we kind of knock kids, especially local kids that do commit early and don't really give them their flowers.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ravi. The Polar Bear had an incredible wrestling career too and was pinning guys in like 10 seconds. But what Tyson's done on the mat is equally as impressive to me. And I always am just awestruck by those guys who are great wrestlers, because think about, to me, it seems like an incredible amount of pressure on your back to go out there 166 times so far. And everybody expects you to demolish this person in front of you. And if you lose, I remember the Iowa kid like a couple years ago who was going for like 4 championships and his mom broke her glasses and stuff like that. And just the reaction to that sort of pressure like on those kids to keep a streak going, it just seems so immense to me. So when I see a guy go out there and just back it up week after week like Tyson does, I think that says a lot about their mental toughness. Obviously, he's gifted and he's favorited in all these matches, but you still have to be really mentally strong to go out there and just not give in ever and have that one slip. And so that's an incredible thing to watch.
I won't dominate your time with TNT, but I do want to give him his flowers. And I remember I can't remember what basketball game was I supposed to be going to in Lincoln? Was it Illinois? Anyway,
Yeah.
there's a wrestling tournament in Lincoln at the same time as the Illinois game, and there's just this collection of guys from the football team currently at Nebraska that all wanted to go watch wrestling. And I was thinking at the time, it's kind of innocuous. But then as guys kept showing up and kind of sitting in the corner with Ryan and spurring him on, I'm thinking to myself, these guys are older than TNT. And I get it. There's the Donovan Jones, Caleb connection. So those guys are riding regardless. But to bring all these other guys with them, and they want tickets to state this year, like the camaraderie and the chemistry, I think can't really be understated when Coach Rule's talking about the kinds of people that he wants to bring into the program, or the kinds of people that he needs to make up the 105, or the kind of people that he wants to love and support the state and think as highly of the University of Nebraska as he does. I mean, Tyson kind of embodies all of that in one with how guys kind of gravitate towards him.
Yeah, I don't think that's a small thing at all. When I see Caleb post a picture of the guys, like after one of Tyson's meets, and there's like 6 or 7 guys, I'm always drawn to that. I feel like it does, because I do think sometimes on certain teams there can be class distinctions. This guy's a year or two older, and you're not really, you're kind of like, well, he's not at my stage yet. Even if there is a friendship that went back when you were younger, I think it's awesome. Obviously, I know Caleb and those guys have a deep friendship, but there's other guys who have been drawn into that, as you say, and they're just as supportive. And I think that does speak for good chemistry. And it also probably speaks to Tyson being the type of kid that people just like to support. And let's not forget, he started this wrestling season injured. I mean, he
was not good.
He got hurt at the end of the football season, and there was some question like, when was he going to get on the mat? And I remember at his signing day in December, he said, I'll be out there next week. And so, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, man, is that going to, like, put the streak in jeopardy? Is he going to go out there and, like, lose one while he's kind of getting it back? And no, he's just picked up where he left off. So no offense to all the others wrestling against him this week. I wish them well after this year, but I hope Tyson Terry completes the mission.
BC, it's kind of funny because as we talk about Tyson Terry and, brought Nash up a little bit, like if I were a line coach in college, I would recruit as many wrestlers as I possibly could, because those guys are like just straight up psychos, first of all. And then secondly, their ability to like use their body and their leverages is incredible. Like if they were a Division I quality player, I would go to wrestlers every day of the week.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. Malik Collins was one of my favorite Huskers, and he was a wrestler and really gifted on the mat. And I think you saw how he's used his leverage to survive in the league for a long time. Justin Evans is a kid who was a really good wrestler. And if you talk to like Ty Robinson and those guys, they'll say he was one of the most difficult guys in practice to go against because he's so strong and he does have a way to out leverage you and get low on you. And so I think there's a lot to be said for it. I think coaches definitely look for it. I think they like that guys who wrestle put themselves out there one-on-one. It's like it takes some guts to do that whenever you're in a sport where it's just you on the mat and everybody sees the result plain as day. That's why I go back to what I said. When a guy runs the table, I just think that's an incredible feat, because think about like going out there and doing something all the time and it's just you against yourself and executing the way Tyson Terry has. It says a lot about probably his mental toughness then to take that to the football field as well.
As the famed mat drills are just getting started, it's all I can think of about competitive stamina. And embodying competitive stamina, that voice you hear, if you're a little confused, yes, it's Brian Christopherson, but he is competing and being on with us when he is very much under the weather. So, BC, we do appreciate it. So let me get to kind of the hour sit down and Coach Rule and the consistency. and this is on the heels of the Broyles talk, where that is garnering national attention, kind of brought the room down there. When you look at him transitioning into more of a leadership role with kind of how he's built this staff, how do you feel that plays in the long run in terms of his fingerprints as a spokesperson and an ambassador? How quickly do you think the play has to match his perceived prowess in that other area?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do think Nebraska needs to take it up like a notch or two where you're in that 9-10 win category. And then, rightly so, I think Matt Rule will I think he can become one of the great voices for college football because he is so candid. He has good ideas. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind or if something's he thinks is off in the sport or what the reality of the situation that coaches are dealing with. And I think he definitely has a platform already. Don't get me wrong. But there is that point, too, where, like, he's going to keep coaching at Nebraska and you get to that elite level and imagine what his voice can be like if Nebraska is on that stage. Because I think you saw this past week when he talks, people listen. Like, if you go watch the interview with Josh Pate and look at the comments below, you'll see people who aren't Husker fans who are like, man, I like this guy. He makes a lot of sense. He just has that way of communicating that I think is really good for the sport. So I think it'd be great for college football if Nebraska gets back because they're one of the traditional powers. I also think it'd be great because I think Rule's the type of coach who should have a platform that you want to hear from because he's got interesting opinions and he's candid, and not everybody's like that.
Yeah, I mean, and if they start winning a little bit more, then the things that he says won't get overshadowed by dummies like Feinbaum telling him to stay in his lane. I mean, that's what you're talking about, right?
I said this for a couple of years now, BC. If his personality, if they ever start winning, he would just turn into a monster because how much he loves this place and how much he's tried to speak it into existence. If he ever gets proof of concept, I mean,
yeah,
all bets are off. I mean, this guy could be governor in 15 years. Zero campaign.
I mean, just the part where he was talking about giving a post-game speech after losing, like that's fascinating stuff to me. And coaches don't talk about that a lot. But on the interview with Pate, he's talking about those crucial 30 minutes right after a game you lose where you have to set just the right tone for a hurting team. You've got to go into a press conference, tell the fan base certain things without burning your team. And you've got to nail that. And you think about the pressure to get that right and how it, merges into the next week and like what you're trying to do going forward. It's just interesting. Like when you get him on topics like that and he can take it and really make you think about like, man, there's a lot that happens. Like after Nebraska lost to UCLA and he goes in that locker room and then the post game and like all the messaging and what he's trying to get across, knowing how much it's going to impact his team the rest of the year. It's really interesting to hear him talk about.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, on February 18th and 19th, did you have on your bingo card that we'd be obsessing over the contract of EJ Barthel?
No, I did not. I was not obsessing. I knew, negotiations happen, and that's the way I always view it. I don't necessarily view that because a guy hasn't upped his contract that means he's not wanted or anything like that. So I think sometimes people take leaps they shouldn't take, and obviously EJ had some people that were interested in him, and he did, I think, what anybody would do in that situation, and he ends up, getting a raise. And the thing I go back to is in December, Dana Holgerson said in a press conference, I like this staff. I like who's around me. He wanted to Keel Shorts because he knows how good he is and how much he fits his system. But everybody else, he said, I like what they're getting done, and they've kind of held pat. So, I mean, when Dana Holgerson says something, I tend to take him at his word because he's and that's
one way to put it
about the staff. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think people forget that Coach Rule, when he announced the full-time hiring of Dana Holgorsen, also announced that he had full-time control over the staff as well. And a lot of us, I think, thought that at the time, oh, well, I guess he does like Marcus Satterfield as the tight ends coach. But we didn't really apply that same logic to E.J. Barthel at running backs, which seemed weird. I don't know if it was just that his contract was up or what, but does it seem like people sort of forget that part of the conversation where Rule said, hey, Dana's going to get to do whatever he wants to with the staff?
Yeah, maybe. And I think some people were kind of locked in on that first week when Dana was blunt about how the running backs weren't hitting the holes, as good in that first half. I think it was at USC. And so people get kind of stuck on that idea, like, oh, he must not think much of Barthel then. And it just hangs in the air. And that's not actually correct. Maybe Dana Holgorsen thinks a whole lot of how E.J. Barthel adjusted and how his guys played after that. And he's like, you know what, I can work with that. So we always have to be careful to assume stuff while things play out. Everybody wants to jump ahead of things now. Just because the hay isn't in the barn on something yet, we kind of will throw out these opinions about what we think is happening. And that's very dangerous to do.
So, BC, let me ask you something, because this has kind of bugged me, not from day one, but fairly early. Why do you think there was or is, or I don't know, present progressive, the disconnect between how Nebraska as a staff and Coach Rule in particular think of Coach Barthel versus portions of the fan base and even to some degree in the media? Like where do you think the disconnect is over his prowess?
I think outside the walls, there's this sort of discontent, and I understand it. It's like Nebraska's sort of been without that bell cow where you thought they had that just unbelievable running back for a while. And because of that, I think there's just sort of disappointment sometimes around the running back spot until that happens. But when Emmett started to pick it up at the end of last year, maybe he can become that guy. And I think you got to give E.J. Barthel some credit for that. I think they've brought in some good recruits. I know others were involved in the recruitment of Jamarian Parker, but so was E.J. Barthel and Connor Booth, and Mekhi Nelson's a guy that he was in on and they still like, and we'll see what Quentin Ives can do. And so anybody who wanted to write the story about how he's done as a coach, I think we're going to learn a lot more in the next year or two with how some of these guys develop that are just coming in, or how they do in 2025. But I do think probably that's what it was. It's just that feeling like, man, Nebraska's supposed to be that place that's running back you, and it just hasn't kind of felt like that. And so there is sort of that sometimes tough critique that goes on when it's not quite like that. So hopefully they can take that step this year. And obviously the people who matter like what E.J. Barthel does behind the scenes and thinks he's a good football coach. And sometimes you got to trust that they know a little bit more than we do and see a lot more than we do.
So it's interesting, BC, because on the heels of you seeing more than what we do, I lucked into a conversation in New York with Coach Holgorsen. And he was talking about transitioning from all his jobs and being particular. And a lot of it started with who he could work with and work for, right? You do it that long, you kind of can pick stuff like that. And there's two things that caught me that were very interesting. I was asking him about Coach Sat and that transition and helping learn the offense and the lingo and vice versa. And he said, one of the things that I think is really understated with Coach Satterfield is how well he works with Coach Raiola in terms of the run game and perimeter blocking. He said their cohesiveness is something that I don't even really have to worry about. And I wonder, and I was like, and you work with guys like that where there's just things about them that that make you guys connect. It's kind of how I felt about Sharp, Greg, where it was like there's things that happen behind the scenes that help with the chemistry that you can't really appreciate without saying it out loud. And conversely, I wonder if we say things like, oh, the commitment to the running game and the running plays and the backs look different. I almost wonder if they have that same kind of connection in the backfield too, where the fit and the style helps with the cohesion. Maybe Coach Barthel is kind of on the same page stylistically with Coach Holgorsen. So maybe that's why it works. The Satterfield thing was super intriguing to me because I think we do undersell that because we don't know it unless he tells us, right?
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. People should remember too that it was Satterfield when they first got here and he met with Raiola. He was like telling Matt Rule, he's like, we got to keep this guy. Yeah. And so it doesn't. So
they went in with the intent to get rid of him.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does make sense that those two have a close connection and that counts for a lot. And I think you're making a good point there about how, Dana Holgorsen had a couple months to look over the staff and be like, does this guy understand what I want out of my offense, and does he coach him in a way that I think can lead to success? If the answer is yes, let's just keep rolling with it. And when he said that comment in December that I like how these guys coach, I don't know. I didn't see a lot of people really highlight that comment. It stuck out to me. I heard that, and I didn't necessarily think there were going to be all these massive changes on the staff. There were people still in December who were like, oh, they're going to flip out like 3 guys. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know about that, like go back and listen to Holgorsen. And so I don't know. Sometimes you gotta keep your ears open, and that people, they will tell you kind of what's going to happen if you pay attention.
Well, especially guys like Dana Holgorsen. BC, we were talking, DB and I were talking yesterday about kind of this misperception about position coaches sometimes, and I think I landed on, I don't know if I think DB was fighting me on it a little bit, but
probably.
How much of it do you think is just we don't always know what we're looking at, and so we sort of oversimplify, like, hey, if you don't have 1,000-yard rusher and you're not recruiting 4 and 5 stars, you must not be very good at your job?
Yeah, I think that's right, Ravi. And that I kind of gave a discombobulated answer earlier that was hopped up on NyQuil. But
dang, you're a NyQuil guy, huh? The more you know.
Yeah. Mucinex, I think I've tried every one of them. So don't. Yeah. So some of the stuff I say, I don't even know what I'm saying, but I think you're right. Like we don't always know exactly what makes a great position coach, because we don't get to see it behind the scenes. We don't get to see the everyday stuff, how they connect to players. I always remember Matt Rule saying, sometimes there's an assistant coach that everybody thinks is having a really great year, and I actually think there's somebody else who people are down on that's having just as good a year, basically, with what he's working with and how he's operating behind the scenes. And so you have to, I'm probably naive a little bit, but I always feel like there's so much pressure to win. They've got to get it right. I tend to believe if Matt Rule or a head coach decides I'm sticking with a guy, there's a very good reason he's sticking with that guy, because he knows what's at stake. I do not think he's a head coach who is afraid to make moves if he has to make them. I think we've already seen that. And so when he sticks with somebody, we should also maybe accept that there's a good reason for that too.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson. Hey, we appreciate you joining
Competitive
us.
stamina, BC, my man.
That's a cool 38 points in the finals with the flu, baby. We appreciate it.
Thanks, B.
We'll have more.
That's a lot in there, man. He's a smart dude.
He is a smart dude. We'll have more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next with Kevin Sjuts.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Live, that's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Good morning. Happy snow day / cold day for all the parents with kids that are staying home. I get really frustrated that, the kids get to stay home and we don't get days off of work because of the weather.
We got a regular Bill Belichick out here. No days off.
It's weird too. It's like, stores will close early. Everything's at a standstill, and work's like, yep, see you soon. It's like, wait,
especially
what?
Especially working in the news, like we can't put a closed sign in our window and just shut it down for the day. We got to go in.
I got to give you some credit, because a couple weeks ago, definitively, when you said, you know what, I'm over it. Like, Coach Hoiberg is I'm over it. Like, one of the first to outwardly kind of throw the gauntlet down. And since then, he hasn't really let you down. But if you're like me, you had to be thinking to yourself, please win this game. Please win the next one. Because, I was like, yeah, Kevin, tell them. And they've handled business, and they've got another big one tonight.
They have handled business. They should handle business down the stretch. When I said that a few weeks ago, there was still plenty of room for them.
Oh, yeah.
so especially with the schedule, there was the makings of some bad losses in there, and that includes Sunday. And boys, I got to admit, I like many people, I turned it off on Sunday. I was actually at my son's youth wrestling tournament. They were behind schedule. Surprise, surprise. And so he was supposed to go at 2. I'm like, well, if I'm up here and he's not going, I'm watching. I was excited. And then I think it was maybe 17-4. I couldn't.
Oh, you turned it off early.
I was around in the presence of other people. And you know how that is, whether you're watching it, at somebody's house with a bunch of folks, or if you're at a bar or a restaurant, sometimes you just can't do it when there are others around you that can watch like your mannerisms. And I am not that kind of guy. I like to watch in my living room with my family only. And so 17 to whatever it was, I'm going to start to react, and I don't want anybody to see that. So I turned it off. I saw the score at halftime. It's like, not much progress. I pulled it up with 4 minutes left, and it was a 2-point game. So then it sucked me right back in. I watched the whole thing back later that night. But man, what a game.
It's crazy. And I don't know how many of our listeners know this, but I've told you this. Part of my allure for you on social media years ago was that you were such a family guy. Like, that's a thing that I really like. And you're always tweeting out stuff with the kids and where you were. And I think you just took it to another level with the wrestling tournament, because it's kind of how I grew up. I hadn't done it for a while, for about 8 or 9 years, since Terry was small, like 4th, 5th, 6th grade. But I got a little buddy now that I like to go watch when I can on the weekend. So I'm getting back acclimated in like the wrestling parent, not 8 mats. You split 1 mat. It's super tight. You're yelling at officials. You're looking to see if stuff is on time. You saying surprise, surprise that the matches were off was quietly one of the funniest things ever. Because those things are miserable if you're on a schedule. It's like you ask somebody what time somebody's wrestling, and you give them like a 45-minute window.
Well, here's the thing is my son's been in it for several years now. So you kind of learn the ins and outs. If you can weigh in early and come back when it's closer to time that they're going to wrestle, you have to, because, if it says start at 2, you can assume they're starting at 3. And that's no like shame toward the folks running these tournaments. It's just naturally the way that they go. Sometimes those matches run late. You want to make sure there's proper warm-up time, because there's not always mat space. There's a lot that happens. So you got to not book your entire day around youth wrestling, but sometimes you got to give yourself a big chunk of time and devote it. And that's the thing for the basketball game for me, guys. I was thinking initially, my son's wrestling at 2. Let's lock in. I'm there for my boy. But he's just hanging out with his buddies off on the side, and they're not even close to starting. So I'm watching Nebraska basketball. But then I don't want to watch Nebraska basketball again. because of the way that game started.
I thought DB was going to tell you that what he identified with was watching games by himself because that dude does not watch games with a soul.
Well, and part of it, Kevin, and this is what I've convinced myself of to function in public. I act like if I'm not with you, you can't ask me about it. So if it doesn't go well, it's like, I don't know. Huh?
He pretends like cell phones
I pretend
don't exist.
I pretend like it didn't even happen. It's just it's a mental game that I play with myself.
So what about the mid-game text? Will you respond to it?
I do.
I'm
pretty good at that. As long as you I think the guys that will do it don't be over the top.
Yeah, you can't be out of pocket.
Yeah, no foolishness now because.
Oh, that's all I get.
That's gonna get you cut off.
Well, I get the memes. I even got one guy who will do impersonations of different media types, like the audio version mid-game. Now, sometimes they're really funny.
Wait, this guy sending you voice memos mid-game?
There's no way.
Yes. He does a terrific Pavelka impersonation. So he'll do a Pavelka. He'll do a Coatney for a women's game. He's got Raftery. But sometimes you don't want to hear it. But in general, it's really funny. So that's a different experience than you, DB, because my phone blows up during games.
Oh, bless your heart.
It is. And it's not a lot of there's no substance there. You would hate it.
See, that's the difference between somebody actually being kind and that people like and somebody that's like, yeah, that guy's kind of a jerk. Yeah, I'm closer to the latter.
Yeah, I'm going to forward you every one of these
that
I get tonight during Nebraska versus Penn State.
You just have to be conditioned because I'm telling you, if you could take that stuff in stride, I don't know, man. I pride myself on being able to channel my emotions, but I'm telling you, I would lose my mind. There's zero question. Zero.
Well, I have tolerance, I guess.
All right. So is this one of those games that you look at and you say should with confidence or uh-oh? Better be careful.
Should.
Okay.
No, should. Nebraska should win this game. It's on the road. However, I'll back up the should first. Should because Nebraska's in a better space than Penn State is right now. Should because Nebraska has been able to win on the road, including the one on Sunday, which was as wild as it was. That should be a nice confidence booster for the Huskers. And should because Nebraska is one of the best players in the Big Ten and Bryce Williams. The caution in saying should is if you look at these two teams on paper, they're pretty stinking similar. And you wouldn't ever think that Nebraska's right in the thick of the league and Penn State is at the bottom all by themselves. But points per game, about the same. Shooting-wise, about the same. In fact, Penn State shoots it a little bit better. Penn State shares it a little bit better. Penn State blocks a little bit better than Nebraska, and the Huskers won't have Berke in there. Nebraska does rebound the ball a little bit better. But right now, Nebraska is in a situation where they have 17 wins on the year. They have 5 games left. Everybody talks about magic number. I think the fact that there is an unknown magic number and the Huskers are trending in the right direction, it should be a freeing feeling for this team. I think you might see a psychological shift for this squad, knowing what happened on Sunday, the confidence that that should get them, and what they're staring at down the barrel here. The schedule is not the most challenging down the stretch for Nebraska, and they're in a really good spot. So you may see a team take the floor tonight in Happy Valley that just doesn't have the pressure on them that we have seen earlier in the year.
Kevin, what do you think the hesitation is from either media or Husker fans or whoever to label games as Nebraska should win this one? Is it just sort of that? I know a lot of people talk about waiting for the other shoe to drop with Nebraska basketball. Like, what is it? Because this is a pretty good team. They probably should beat Penn State. Like, what's the hesitation of just being able to say, yeah, they should win 3 or 4 of their last 5 games on the way out?
That's a great question, Ravi.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that it is this deep desire to make the NCAA tournament and a history of being so close but not being able to pull through late in the year. So you're scarred by the past but hopeful for what could be, and they don't always go side by side with each other. And I think that Nebraska basketball fans are a very rare breed. in that they want so badly to be good, to contend for a conference title. They want so badly to go to the NCAA tournament. They want so badly to win in the NCAA tournament. However, the foundation in which they can place their hopes is a little bit shaky given the program's past. And there is a history of just being let down in big games. So I think that's really the diagnosis, in my opinion, for a game like Nebraska versus Penn State on February, whatever it is, that you're not so sure about it, despite the fact that Penn State's at the bottom of the league.
That's Kevin Sjuts, 1011 News in Lincoln. Kevin, we appreciate it as always, and hope you don't have any reason to turn the game off early today.
I hope I can watch it start to finish, and it doesn't have to be at midnight.
And I hope nobody sends you any weird voice memos.
That's incredible.
And if they do, you guys are going to learn about it.
Oh, my man.
Kevin, we'll talk to you later. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kev.
See you, boys.
More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Finds Tatum, this is a good look at the left side three, got it! And Jason Tatum on Madison Square Garden's sacred floor has joined the Boston Celtics top 10 all-time scoring leaders.
And out beyond the arc, Christie will take the three and knock it down. Matt Christie hitting it over Brooks.
Pass, lob, Butler catching that dunk. Jimmy Butler a little skywalking. Goes to Luka right side. Centris dribbling one-on-one against Walker Kessler. Three-pointer over Kessler. It's good.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Shane Young. He's an NBA analyst for Forbes Sports. Shane, how are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, guys. How are you all doing?
Good morning, man. Good morning. In fact, we talked a handful of times. I'm kind of vibing with the StreamYard. So in case we ask anything ridiculous, we know that it's ridiculous because I don't know if you have a good poker face.
Probably don't.
Well, you're talking, listen, dab smack in the middle of Omaha. You're talking to two guys that really, really, really enjoy the NBA. So it's not always it's not always it's not always cool to talk about, but man, I have to we had to talk to you because we're trying to save the league and we don't want to panic. Right? I asked Ravi the other day, I said, hey, do you remember a sport that kind of more openly its guys get after their own sport than the NBA? And I'm hard pressed to kind of find. Max Crosby came to mind for the Raiders. Maybe that's outward, kind of spoken outwardly about the game. I got that from one of our listeners. But why do you think the NBA needs to, or why do you think the NBA kind of eats itself sometimes when it comes to marketing its own product?
Yeah, it's strange. And I think it only really happens on the TNT network at that level. I mean, ESPN, you'll see a few personalities here and there really criticize the state of the game. But for the most part, I think a lot of, the former players that they employ on ESPN are more modern. They've played more recently than like the TNT guys. But I don't know. It was very perplexing. I think the most popular example of this is the Draymond Green stuff, the comments over the All-Star weekend. And, like Draymond wasn't wrong about the format and the way the All-Star stuff kind of went down. Where I think he was completely wrong and out of line is like, the comments he made on Saturday about, just the state of the regular season and NBA games in general. And it was very disappointing to hear coming from who I think is one of the 5 smartest players I've ever watched, to be honest with you, especially it's just a defensive mastermind like he is. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, it is weird that the NBA is the only league that you really see this at that frequency. I think, if you get some old heads from the NFL, they'll talk about it here and there. But for the most part, your NFL Sunday Countdown, your Monday night shows, it's all praising the current stars, interviewing the current stars, getting to know them. When's the last time, I'll ask you this, when's the last time you saw like someone sit down with, I don't know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Nikola Jokic, our top 2 of MVP ladder this year, and get to know them, have a 15-minute sit-down interview where they break down film with them, like you kind of see with Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, or pick your star, pick your face of the NFL. We need more of that and less of the ripping on how the current league is.
I even saw hockey. That's one of the examples that we used the other day where hockey's talking to like Kachuk and Connor McDavid, and they're doing like these sit downs on what the significance of the 4-team tournament. And I said to Ravi, I said, what's so hard about promoting your own sport that way? Do you know what I mean? Like it just seems like it wouldn't be that difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem the NBA has right now, and I'm sure you guys follow me, I'm pro NBA, think it's in a really good place right now. I genuinely believe that. I'm considering they're on for an 11-year, $75 billion deal or whatever it is with the media rights. But I think the biggest problem is they're not doing the big time marketing with the stars that are coming up, the Tatums, the Shais, Jokic, pick your young star, John Morant, those type of guys. It's more so they're still leaning on Durant, LeBron, and Steph. And I'm not saying that it's going to be belly up or there's going to be major problems when those guys retire, but I think they need to start doing the things that you're talking about with the Connor McDavid example, with the guys that are 24, 25, 26 years old. Anthony Edwards is another example.
So, Shane, as you're kind of talking about that, because I was going to bring up the lack of attention on the younger stars, because seems like they really are hanging on to that LeBron, Steph, KD era of the league. Is there any part of that you think has to do with so many of the young stars being international guys, where it's just a little different, right? Whether it's Luka, you brought up Jokic, obviously Giannis, you've got Wemby, all those guys are national guys. Maybe we didn't watch them in college coming up. Like, how much of that is a factor in them not getting marketed the same way? Or is it just, hey, we've got our old heads that we love? I mean, I'm as big of a Steph Curry fan as you'll find. Is it just, hey, we're clinging on to these guys for dear life?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it is that. You don't want it to be that way. You want everyone to kind of be focused on or treated equally in that manner. But I think it is a factor, because think about it, like, there's not a lot of personality, and I mean, Jokic has his own personality, but for him to be the unequivocal best player in the world to me, and I think for the last couple of years, and he's still in his prime, which is crazy to say, like, you don't really know that much more about him other than he loves the horse racing, and like, you just don't really know that much about him.
Brother,
And,
you know that.
yeah, exactly. And the big tough brother that'll stand up for him all the time. So, like, you know, and that's not just the NBA's fault. That's the player's fault too. That's his fault. He doesn't want that. I mean, I remember covering the finals in 2023, and he was visibly just frustrated every time he had to come up and talk to the media. So it's just something about those European stars, those international stars. They don't want to be in front of the camera. They don't want to talk and give the interviews and open up. I think, it's interesting because I think Wembanyama has that. I think he has the biggest personality out of all these international guys we've ever seen. I'll go a step to say that. But it might just be a little bit too early, and we know the Spurs aren't that good. So I don't know. I think it'll be really good in about 5 years with him. I mean, I think he will be the face of the NBA. He'll warm up to it, and the NBA will do a better job of that. And we have to give the NBA credit for this. Before he was even in the NBA, Victor Wembanyama, we saw highlights on the NBA's social media pages of him. Like, they were trying. But as you're saying, the random guy, and I'm just going to throw out cities like Detroit, Milwaukee, Indiana, though the random fan isn't going to cling on those international stars they would like a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James.
I got to take advantage of your range, and I'll get to the top ends in basketball too, but let me give you two teams, and you give me some yay or nay on the belief factor to make a conference finals-esque type move. The Detroit Pistons.
Zero belief.
Zero. Okay. Houston Rockets.
Get the right matchup, and if you want to go like 1 to 10, I'm at like a 6.5 that they can make a deep run, because I'm not this defense wins championships guy, but Ime Udoka has proven to get results. So,
Los Angeles Clippers.
Ooh. Now, was the barometer conference finals? Is that what that was?
Taking a run to the Western Conference Finals.
More than the Rockets. I have more belief on the Clippers than the Rockets. They have the best coach in the league, Tyronn Lue, and James Harden's been really good this year, and I'm always a quiet believer.
Now, this may be more of a product of who they have to jump, but the Indiana Pacers.
Oh, the East is weird because they're the 4 seed. The Pacers are the 4 seed, and they are on track to have a better record than last year. I would say 5 out of 10. Don't think they will like last year. They kind of got lucky last year, but it's right there. Just have to upset a couple teams.
All right, I'm going to throw this one at you because I'm a homer here. I mentioned my Steph Curry love. They finally made a move to get him help, probably like 3 years later than I wanted him to. But with Jimmy Butler, any chance of listen, I don't even have championship aspirations, but can they make a conference finals?
Well, you and Draymond are certainly different, aren't you? He thinks they're going to win the championship. Guaranteed it.
Got a little Dak Prescott in him.
I mean, listen, if we can get Olympic Steph back, then maybe.
Yeah. Look, if you told me Jimmy Butler was on the team October 22nd when the season tipped off, I would have said yes. Like, they are going to be a 55-win team easily. It's just too late in the game. You're one game above 500. you're probably going to be in the play-in. I'm not going to completely write them off, but getting to the top 6 is tough. So you're going to have to win a play-in game, maybe 2. It's not going to happen, but I think they are going to be playing at a 55-win pace from here on out.
As a diehard, lifelong, I mean, Magic Johnson's my favorite player of all time. I'll be 50 here shortly, so I'm a Lakers guy through and through. I've always struggled with LeBron. That's neither here nor there. But when you look at how this team has to play and kind of their options, I looked at him offensively, and I'm like, gosh, could he play some center sometimes when they need it, or we get in the foul? Like, I'm just going through all these scenarios. When you look at the different ways that he and Luka can play together to make some sort of a run from 5 to wherever they're going to have to go, do you see it stylistically with the Lakers?
Oh, absolutely, because all you have to think about is just close your eyes and envision one action. Luka handling the ball with LeBron setting screens for him. The defenders and those 2 defenders in that scenario aren't going to know what to do. Because usually, guess who the number 1 star in the NBA is over the last 5 years that's garnered the most on-ball traps? Luka Doncic. Yeah. He's been trapped more than 100 more times more than the next highest player. And if the defense can't do that now because LeBron is rolling down the lane on a 4-on-3, it's really tough to handle, and especially if a couple shooters don't connect, Dorian Finney-Smith, whoever it is in the corner, Austin Reeves. Like, it's going to be really tough to handle. Their problem is, as you guys know, like you watch ball, their problem is defense. I think Luka is going to be a turnstile for the rest of the year. Like LeBron already is. He's 40 years old. Let's give him a break on that. But they're not going to be able to stop that many people. But to your question, I think what people aren't asking is who's going to stop them. Like, I could easily see them getting into a series with Memphis. I know Memphis is a lot better of a team right now, but
can the Lakers play at that pace?
Huh?
Can the Lakers play at that pace? I mean, Memphis is like tops in the league in pace of play.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's where eventually Memphis would get them in a 6 or 7 game series. But it's like, you could not tell me that you can't see Luka and LeBron stealing a couple games, and then the national attention's on that series while Memphis lose again to the Lakers in a 2-7 matchup, something like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I think LeBron and Luka can average 30 apiece in the playoffs, but lose a series.
Shane, we'll let you go on this. Is this Boston's championship to lose again?
I won't say that. OKC deserves too much respect, but I am going to pick Boston to win it, but I don't think
just no love for the Cavs, huh?
I think we've seen Boston can handle that matchup. That's just what I'll say.
How much of the OKC love has to do with hopefully Chet coming back and being a factor?
Love it, man. If they can play 2 bigs, like look at Cleveland winning a crap ton of games with 2 bigs. If they can run 2 bigs in certain moments, I mean, you need stylistic versatility, and that's what Mark Daigneault and OKC has.
Especially defensively.
There you go. That's Shane Young, covers the NBA for Forbes. Shane, we appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dane.
More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Good talk there with Shane Young regarding the NBA in our last segment there. Appreciate him joining us. But I wanted to switch gears here, DB, because, you know, we're getting pretty close to draft time for the NBA. Well, we're getting close to combine time for the NFL, and we're getting all these mock drafts and things like that. And then I see Cam Ward out here telling people, hey, I'm keeping receipts if you don't draft me. I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
Now, my question here is, don't you have to be a certain level of quality to make those kind of statements?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. You know why?
Talk me out of it.
Because it's not for you to rank their value.
Okay.
It's how they view themselves.
I get that.
So you need a certain amount. I mean, at what point would you have told Brady to not think the way that he did?
Sure.
Right? So that's a guy that wasn't going to be drafted high, but was very outspoken about
guys that got drafted ahead of him.
Yeah. So, I mean,
It wasn't a big Giovanni Carmazzi guy.
Wow, that's a heck of a pull.
You know why I know that?
Why?
Who was he drafted by?
Yeah, that's right, Niner. Which, by the way, was
he Hofstra?
I'm fed up with it.
Yeah.
And I told you they were talking about Dak getting too much attention.
Yeah.
Pat, the producer, was making the case that Purdy should be more talked about than Prescott. Not so much more than is that he's better than people give him credit for.
Oh, 100%.
I thought that was interesting. I wasn't going to tell you to make you feel better because you got off to such a slow start with the black don't crack and the Asian joke, but
wasn't a joke. I was trying to give context to.
It's not cool.
Something, you know. I do think I do think Brock Purdy is weirdly polarizing, though.
Yeah, but I'm not mad at Cam Ward for thinking that. I think everybody has their own. I mean, look who you're talking to, first of all. Like, I can make anything competitive.
Sure.
Anything. So
maybe it's so maybe
it just depends on what I want to move, what I think can move me.
So you know why it struck me weird is I think some of that I like to be internal. I don't
like not have people tell you.
Or like I don't need to hear it from sometimes I think it's more powerful to the person when it's like, hey, I let that burn quiet.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it. The other thing is, and I think it's because of it's a draft situation as opposed to being in the league already, where I got kind of Johnny Manziel vibes from it, where you get the story about him calling teams being like, let's go wreck the league together and stuff. And I wasn't sure Johnny Manziel was that guy. I don't know if Cam Ward is that guy. Like, so I don't know if that's part of it. Like, it just associated weirdly in my head, but it just struck me very oddly.
I think it's a little overstated, primarily because I don't want to judge that for somebody. Like, I've seen a lot of petty work.
Sure.
Now, I don't know how long you can sustain negative energy for a positive outcome.
Fair.
And I think that's something different than what I have said it.
Okay.
Like because I'm definitely separating those two. I'm a big.
Because you're going to let it burn quiet.
Yeah. And I'm a big just because you can doesn't mean you should guy. Like I'm always weighing that. There are lots of things that I think
so you don't
I want to do.
You don't care that he said it, but you probably wouldn't have.
Correct. And I can make that distinction.
That's fair.
I would not have said that.
Maybe that's what I'm doing.
But I would think it.
Mm-hmm.
I definely would think it.
Because and maybe this makes me a front runner, but like,
trust me, you don't want to be that.
I know
those guys suck.
But maybe because I am a guy that will take a victory lap for sure.
Yeah.
But I also, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I do feel like I put myself out there a decent amount, and that's why I want to take the victory lap, because I take, you take some slings and arrows when you put yourself out there and people don't agree with you.
And I always say I'll take a victory lap, and I almost never do.
Yeah, you almost never do. I would take way more victory laps if I were you.
If you know how bad I want to I don't know. I mean, I sit on it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I like internal victory laps.
Yeah. And I'll take them, I'll take them publicly because that's how I'm wired, and I'm kind of an a-hole like that. But I don't know. I don't know what it is about at this point in the process, if he's trying to convince teams to draft him. Like, I don't know what it was about it. It just struck me really strangely.
Well, I think it's because you don't like him. You've been one of those guys that all year that's kind of been a but on Ward, right?
Yeah, there's something about it aesthetically that I just doesn't.
I get it.
I don't have a good reason. I really don't. And I wanted him at Florida State, to be clear. My alternative
who
was
were
DJU,
they playing on television the night that we played Central?
Oh.
And it was like he had to have like this miraculous catch, no catch thing.
Who was they? Virginia Tech?
Yeah, maybe.
It was Virginia Tech, because that's the one that was the big controversial ending.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching.
And I think that was a Thursday, too.
I'm watching. Oh, it was a Friday.
Thursday. It might have been Friday.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Saturday.
Yeah,
it was a weird.
It was a Friday night.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that game, and there were several like that. We're in those close games, and they were playing down the stretch. I'm like, golly, I know you guys are poking holes at Miami and the way that they win close and getting breaks and stuff, but you certainly weren't getting that life without Cam Ward in it.
Sure.
So I always had to kind of, because there's lots of guys that don't fit my eye aesthetically that are highly productive.
Sure.
So, when I look at a guy like Ward, and I know he's polarizing, for me, Ward is different than Shedeur. Like,
they're very different styles.
I've seen Shedeur. I know his real size. I kind of know like his style of play, holding the ball versus not holding the ball. He had elite weapons, and he's going to have those at the NFL level too.
Yeah.
So they're just not going to be that much better
than the opponent.
Yeah. So, because that's the part people don't.
The gap isn't going to be the same.
Yeah, to be very comparable.
Yeah.
So if I was choosing between the two, I definitely would take Ward over Sanders, but that doesn't mean I would take either one of them as a
top 2-3 pick.
As pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
But I like Ward more than most physically. There are some things. The whole sitting, like, go back and check out the situation. Do as much digging as you can. This is something that Austin would do. He's probably already typing. All right, what's he going to say? Because that dude will fact find
on
in
it.
a second.
Yeah.
The whole the mysterious thing around playing the first year at Houston and then sitting out and redshirting and then leaving and picking a school, there's some things about his personality that I'm not sure are going to play well unless I'm misdiagnosing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not ready to throw in the towel and say, well, guys don't mature and can't change. But he has some telltale signs of being the face of a franchise that I'm not sure I would love.
More concern about that part of it with him or with Shedeur? Because Shedor's got some of those questions too, right?
Shedeur is kind of the opposite. He's never not really been the man, and it's never not really been about him. And I don't think he's that kind of quarterback in the league. So when he's talking and they have a microphone in front of his face as a first-round draft pick, to be other-centered enough and to talk about your team enough and any potential help that you have gotten during the course of that game and stuff like that will be new for him.
Yeah.
Because it's always been about him. So that's a different kind of leadership and responsibility. Yeah, and responsibility.
Yeah.
So I think they both have questions in that regard, but just on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't really know. I mean, I said this yesterday. Someone's going to talk themselves into one of those guys.
100%.
Probably in the top 3.
100%.
And I don't know. I don't think either one of those are top 3 guys. But I also, we were talking about Travis Hunter. I'm like, you can't draft that guy number 1. You can't. You can't draft Travis Hunter number 1 and think you're going to be a better franchise for it. Like top 5, maybe if you're in a situation where you like some of your other pieces. But if you're Tennessee and you need a lot of help, you can't draft Travis Hunter number 1. But I wouldn't feel great if they decide, hey, we need a quarterback. Let's get one of these guys.
Is Travis Hunter a better defensive back than Will Johnson?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I don't think he's the best defensive back in the class. I don't think he's the best receiver in the class.
So maybe it was Ryan that explained it best, because I had that question, right? If you're not the top wideout and you're not the top DB, what is the?
He said the margin for error, right?
Yep.
Is that if it doesn't work out at one spot, you still have another skill set to fall back on?
The margin of error where that pick occurs. And I guess I would listen to that. I just don't. I wouldn't sit here and tell you that I understand it.
Yeah, I worry about a pretty good at a lot of things, not great at anything.
And just at
that. And at the number 1 pick, I don't feel good there.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, I would feel better if I as an organization and like went through combines or pro days or individual whatever, and you got the good size of the quarterbacks, you got a good look at them, you got a feel for one of these guys, and you go, hey, I know this is a risk, but that's a risk that makes more sense to me than Travis Hunter. Like if you think Cam Ward can replicate what he did at Miami and carry a team that way, that's a better risk.
Well,
in my opinion.
Do you think when folks are drafting, because you assume at the top and in the first round, guys, you're hoping they get to a second contract?
Yeah.
What about look aheads to re-signing guys for second contracts as a DB versus a quarterback?
Maybe. I mean, maybe you think you're so far off as a franchise that you're like, by the time I have to pay Cam Ward, even if it does work out, that I'm not going to be any good still.
Or go the other way, re-signing a DB in his 4th year,
$15 million.
Yeah,
somewhere in that. Even if he's
a little more than that, but yeah,
if he's the best cornerback in the league, like 20.
Yeah,
like you're not
versus.
I mean, by then,
whatever the market will be for quarterbacks.
Yeah, 40 a minimum.
Yeah, because we're already seeing like what the Chiefs may have to do with Mahomes.
Yeah, restructure and figure that out.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a restructure as much as because he's going to bump to $66 million.
Yeah.
So
they're going to try and convert some of that to bonus so it doesn't
and guaranteed
count
money.
It doesn't count against the cap.
Now the problem is they'll have to do it again in 2026 when he's like $78 million.
Yeah. But it's something
you can keep kicking the can down the road a little bit, but I do think the ability to re-sign a guy for a second contract are what some good front offices think about. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I would, because you have to think longer than a 1-year or a 2-year plan.
For sure.
And guys that are drafted at that spot don't get the 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to it happens. It sneak up on you quick.
I do think, though, you have to worry about.
I mean, are you saying to yourself, is this going to be a $58 million guy?
Sure.
I think you have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But I think you also have to say, okay, even if this works out, I've got the number 1 pick in the draft. Even if this works out, am I winning any more games? Like, even if Travis Hunter's a really good corner.
I don't know if you can think like that.
Don't you have to, though?
No, because so what was stopping Washington?
The Commanders?
Yeah.
From what? Stopping them from what?
From thinking, how many more games are we going to win?
Well, they went and got Jane Daniels, though.
Yeah, I understand
that's
that.
like-
but that I don't.
The ceiling on a quarterback working out versus the ceiling on a corner working out are very different. Is my
but
point.
do you cap yourself?
I think you have to be realistic about the positional impact. Like, the impact of a really good corner is just less.
Yeah.
Like, if you're telling me, hey, we're going to go Abdul Carter because we think the impact of an edge rusher is better than the impact of a corner and we're not sold on the quarterbacks, I'll hear that. I'll hear that about Abdul Carter, and you're thinking about a second contract, and do I want to pay Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders $60 million a year 4 years from now? Or, God knows, probably more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be honest, the $60 million might be low 4 years from now. But if you go, hey, positionally, an edge rusher, I'm closer to a contract of a corner than I am a quarterback at that point. The best edge rushers make like 28, 30 million right now. So that's half of what a quarterback makes. And impact-wise, I get way more bang for my buck as an edge rusher than I do from a corner.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have that conversation, but I just think and listen, I get having good defensive backs is important, right? But I think the positional impact of a corner, the upside just is not there at number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just can't, especially if you're bad.
No, and I understand.
And Tennessee's bad. I mean,
And there's posting similarities to my man Game Dog, but I'm going to entertain this just because.
For Tommy?
So I'm going to go with Tommy
Yeah.
here. Just Tommy, for lack of a better name. Shedeur is an all-time again, we're getting stats, right, as opposed to listening to what I actually said. Shedeur is an all-time NCAA leader in completion percentage. Okay. He has a 5-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Okay. Stuff I can Google. Shedeur had probably the worst offensive line in Power 4. I'll even grant you that. I'd go Shedeur over Ward all day. What I said was physically, I would take Cam Ward. Arm talent, mobility, whatever.
Productivity's been great.
Operating under duress. Also, it's not necessarily and maybe this is just his opinion and not adversarial to what was being said. There will be a great debate over those two, and maybe this is his reason for taking Shedeur. So I'm going to operate under that assumption. Like this is, but what I would say about that is Shedeur takes a ton of sacks. A reason he doesn't throw a ton of interceptions is because he won't take a ton of chances. So the anticipation of throwing guys open. Also, if you watch Shedeur, their ability to win 50 between Horn and Lester Buckets and Hunter, they won a lot of contested balls. Not sure you're going to make a living doing that in the NFL. So the anticipation and getting rid of the ball and standing in the face of duress is definitely something that I think Shedeur has to work on. It's not just the linear statistics of 5-to-1 and a bad offensive line. And
at the same time, I would argue Cam Ward probably needs to do better about operating within system.
Yeah. So what I think it's going to boil down to is kind of the part that I was talking about mainly, not their individual prowesses, how they operate as technicians physically. It's the face of the franchise thing. Because when you're giving the keys to somebody to be the face of your franchise, all other things other than just playing the position are going to matter.
Well,
they just are.
It was the concern about Caleb Williams in Chicago, right?
So you just have to understand. Yeah, and for a guy that's that talented,
for there
to be
any
questions, like clearly it's important,
right?
So it's not just hard data.
Because if you're looking on the field and physically, there would be no questions about Caleb Williams, right?
But I'm
in
training camp, Tommy, and my guys got to talk about how the practice went or what you need to do to get better or whatever. Like, you have to think about that too. How's this guy going to react? How's this guy going to represent my deal? And listen, I'll listen to this, right? I don't put a ton of stock in arm talent as far as arm strength. Again, you could have stopped right there. I don't need the Jeff George thing. Because you can anytime anytime your debate style is this, and you give me the specific examples, I'm going to tell you it doesn't matter. Because for every Jeff George or a guy that can rip it, I'll say, like, there's a Sam Darnold, or there's an Aaron Rodgers, or we can talk about anticipation, and it works for some and not for others. But if you don't have arm talent, you better be good at getting the ball out of your hands and anticipating and throwing guys open. I think we can safely agree about that. That's something I think Shedeur is going to have to show in his workouts. Throwing guys open and anticipation. It's going to be a thing. If I were him, I would roll some tape where he was really good and he took a ton of sacks and it almost cost him. Nebraska 2 years ago in Colorado hit some of those early throws he made, the scramble in the back of the end zone where he led a guy about 8 yards, the big over route that they threw behind Nebraska, and we're like, how does that happen in between two defenders? Look at the trajectory of where he threw that ball. Now, if he could do those kinds of things, sure, you don't have to talk about arm talent. But if you don't, again, here's the one-off. I could do this all day. Tom Brady, okay. Yeah, Tom Brady does have arm talent, and it's better than he's given credit for.
Also,
but one of the things that makes Brady really good is his anticipation. So you can't give me the best of the best and then the worst of the worst and expect me to be like, oh, okay, good point. Like, we could do this all day.
Also, arm talent and arm strength are different things.
No,
I'm just saying, like, that's kind of what it seems like Tommy's getting at here. I just want to make that distinction. Arm strength and arm talent are very different things.
I'm with you.
Jamarcus Russell had a great arm. He didn't have a ton of arm talent.
I understand.
Like Matthew Stafford is kind of your, like, hey, I've got
the
both.
best of both worlds.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers are like, hey, I've got great arm strength and great arm talent. But like Tom Brady and Joe Montana had incredible arm talent. They didn't have
we're
great
talking about
arm strength.
We're talking about elite guys.
Yeah, at the top end, right? And so, like, that's a big difference here, because I would argue that Shedeur does have arm talent even if he doesn't have a great arm strength.
Yeah,
right.
I would be more apt to agree with that.
Like, I think that's true.
I would be more apt to agree with
now,
that.
does he need to work on some of the other things that are timing, anticipation, like standing in front of a rush, those types of things? 100%. But, like, that doesn't mean he doesn't have arm talent. And if you don't have a base level of arm talent, nothing else matters. Like, you have to, kind of like what we were talking about a couple days ago with Coach Rule. Like, if you don't get to the base level of talent, the rest of it doesn't matter. And so, yes, we can debate how much the other stuff matters, but look at the guys that Tommy brought up. Joe Montana, one of the great leaders in the game we've ever seen. Tom Brady, one of the great leaders in the game we've ever seen.
And I would make the case every day that ends in Y that Joe Montana had elite. I won't say elite. Is the perfect example of arm talent
over arm
versus
strength.
arm strength.
100%. I mean, I throw Brock Purdy in that conversation. Good arm talent, mediocre arm strength. Like that guy will put. And then here's another great example. Trevor Lawrence, great arm strength, great arm talent, doesn't have a lot of the other stuff, it seems like, and has struggled because of it, right? And I think a lot of people will sit here and ask, well, DB, why does it matter what kind of press conference they give in training camp and things like that? And here's the reason. Right?
You think people would ask that?
I do. Because I think some people think that stuff is just fluff and doesn't matter.
Okay.
But, and you're right, like the press conference itself or the sound clips themselves don't matter, but it's the way he's received in the locker room and by the other guys, right? Because what's the best thing a quarterback can do? It's get everybody pulling in the same direction. You say it all the time. Hey, if I've got a quarterback that can lead other good players, I'm good, right? Who you talk about? You talk about Rizak all the time with your Westside team and leading a bunch of other D1 guys. And he was the lightest recruited of those D1 guys. And then you talk about Tommy Frazier, who you've got a bunch of guys that played in the NFL, and Tommy, who didn't play in the NFL, right? But who was able to lead all those super talented guys? Tommy Frazier was, right? That's the difference between a guy who, in Tommy and Brooke, and why they ended up really being a clear choice there for those teams in Nebraska. Like, that's the thing here. That's why the press conference matters, right? That's why the sound clip matters.
And it's just interesting. You know, you look at guys and kind of their history or their MO, and I use a guy like Josh Allen, big Josh Allen, right? You know, coming from Wyoming and came in with the questions and the accuracy. That's a guy. Not everybody can handle taking it on the chin to Mahomes every year when you basically stand toe to toe with that guy.
Yeah, there's how much more could Josh Allen have
done? But
done?
I'm comfortable with him as the spokesperson. You right now, what you need from Josh Allen is not more physical attributes. You need more of his competitive wherewithal and the ability to lead, because that's you have to hang in there if you're Buffalo.
100%.
Right?
You need some resilience.
Why will Caleb Williams have the pressure this year in Chicago? It's not going to be because of his physical prowess. It's can he hang in there when they cram a microphone in front of his face?
And when Chicago's struggling and going through a tough spot.
That stuff is going to matter. Part of Jaden Daniels' allure is handling
He's cool as
the
cucumber.
media.
Just always cool.
Part of Jalen Hurts' allure is handling
unbothered.
He just is not flappable.
He's unbothered.
That stuff matters.
And let's get away from the notion. Like, I understand Shador is the most accurate pass. He had the best completion percentage in NCAA history. That doesn't mean he was the most accurate.
That's just
completion percentage and accuracy are not the same thing. All right, that's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It is time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get to the casino in Lincoln or in Omaha and check out all they've got to offer. DB.
0-2.
Oh,
come on, Nebraska. Hey, my man looked out for me, though.
Who?
I'm a big Antonio, or I'm a big Nebraska guy.
Yeah?
Yeah. You can. It's Antonio.
What'd he do for you?
Oh, he just checks on me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Looking out for you?
Yeah. I agree with QBAs here.
What'd he say?
About Sanders getting rid of the ball and
it's a concern for sure.
So you know what happens if Shedeur doesn't improve on timing and off script plays?
What's that?
He's going to look a lot like first year Bryce Young.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Hold it.
You get in a lot of trouble.
You get in a lot of trouble that way.
And honestly, the best thing for Shedeur, I think, is if he falls out of that top group of teams.
And there's not as much pressure.
And he ends up somewhere better.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the problem with Bryce Young is he's at a very bad franchise.
Yeah, and you know what the thing, and I'm not saying Carolina turned the corner.
No, but they were better.
But I think part of him playing better is not feeling the onus of having to save the franchise because he got benched.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, it already that ship is sort of sailed.
Because there's this weird thing, and it was one of the things that I loved about Zane Flores, and this is a weird analogy, but Zane would take chances without, and he had good. Listen, don't get it twisted. He had good receivers, and a couple of those guys were really good. But he would take chances with anticipation and throwing balls that other people just would not. Even and it's the one, and I use him as an example because when I look at a guy like Braylon Warren, who has tremendous ability, tremendous arm talent. One of the things I want,
like him, see him take a few more chances.
Yes,
yeah, I would agree.
Like
I thought the same thing when I watched him. This year.
Not holding, hey,
trust the ability.
But it's so ingrained in him to not turn the ball over.
We saw that with Dylan this year, I think.
Right? It's exactly.
We saw it with Dylan.
To not turn the ball over.
Yeah.
That you don't shoot your shot.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
You missed opportunities.
The quarterbacks that are willing to do that,
but
they're physically gifted,
but aren't reckless. That's the line.
There's a fine line between Allen and Favre.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between a lot of those guys, right? Like Jameis trusts his arm, right? Jameis also
reckless.
He also threw 30 interceptions in a season.
So there's that hidden thing about quarterbacks that I
and it's understanding when to take the shot.
Yeah.
Right. When it's that internal risk.
That's why I like Burrow.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure if you're in a lab.
You're not
physically.
There's not a ton you're going to take.
Where you're like, yep, that's my
good arm talent.
That's my. It's not elite.
No, but good arm talent.
Yeah,
but not elite at any one physical feature.
But the sliding in the pocket, the anticipation of the throws, the accuracy, the being able to move on the run. He's a lot of 8.5s.
Not a lot of 10s.
His IQ is a
like
10,
12. Yeah,
right. And that's a guy who, even though he hates talking to the media, has learned to be more comfortable.
And you can tell, even though it's not his favorite thing, you can tell why people gravitate towards him in the locker room, right? Because that is a dude who is unflappable. And I think other football players are drawn to that, where they go, oh, if he's not worried, we're okay. Like if you can tell in his eyes that he's like, hey, we're going to take care of this, that I think leads other people in a way that some guys just have a little bit more frantic energy. And that's not something you would ever say about Joe Burrow. I'm not sure that guy's heartbeat ever raises above about 35 beats per minute.
Yeah, so the fine line between somebody like Dylan, and I like that example because he went from not turning the ball over early, but holding the ball too long. Like I think people he heard those whispers, right? Hey, you have time, get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
So as the season progressed and he played against better teams. Sometimes he would try to make plays and he'd turn the ball over.
Yep.
Now you have to be willing to grow in that and say, okay, now's a good time to shoot my shot. Now's not a time. As I start to play with more consistent receivers, I feel like my anticipatory set will be better too.
Yeah.
So that's part of the growth, but I think it starts with the freedom to be able to make a mistake and know you're going to be okay.
And you know what I think part of it was with Dylan too?
Watch. Bryce Young year one is a good example of what I'm talking about. Like, you just want to say, throw the ball, man.
I think part of it, what we saw with Dylan too, is there was a few times early where he did cut it loose, gave his receiver a chance, and it went the other way. Illinois comes to mind with Nair in the end zone, and it goes the other way. And he's like, okay, well, I put that ball in a pretty good spot. If my guy can't come down with that, I probably can't throw that anymore. Right. And that's not necessarily the right conclusion, but you see how he got there. Yeah. And then he overcorrects.
How many times did you see a throw where you just put it on him?
Yeah.
Just trust it.
Right.
As opposed to, I'm going to try to make this ball as perfect as possible.
Yeah. Just rip it.
And reduce the margin of error. That's the thought process. It wasn't actually how it played out.
Right, because then it actually increases the margin for error because it's not perfect.
It's like if you're throwing to somebody and you don't think they're a good they're good at catching.
You're gonna baby it a little bit. You're gonna baby
Instead
it a little bit. Because if you think they got good hands, you're just gonna rip that thing.
I don't know what you call that in quarterbacks. I've just seen enough of them to know.
Yeah, there's a difference.
What I would want. Like the next step for a Braylon will be, okay, got good physical tools. You got good command of the offense. Let's trust the whole thing. If you see that evolution where you don't have to wait for a guy to come open or you won't hold it because you're unsure, well, the sky is the limit. And the really, really good – you know who was really good at that?
Who?
Steve Young.
Yes. Yeah. Now he's working with some pretty good receivers. You know?
Yeah, that's part of it. But again, I hate that. Because a lot of guys in the NFL are pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, but Jacksonville, like if you looked at Jacksonville's skill guys the last 2 years, you think that Lawrence should have been better.
Sure.
So you can't
always.
You can't just say that.
Right. But I also think it is worth putting out there because when you've got guys that are going to go make
Bears
plays.
had pretty good guys.
They do. But when you've got guys
get rid of the ball
that you feel like are going to make plays, it can build that confidence, right? And if you've got guys, like we said with Dylan, where you aren't super confident they're going to go make plays, then it sort of makes you retreat a little bit. So it does matter. I'm not saying like, oh, he's got Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice. Anybody could have done it, right? That's not what I mean. What I mean is if you've got guys that you feel like are going to go win those balls, you're much more willing to put it in a 50-50 situation, right? Like I bring this example up all the time. There's a reason Johnny Manziel would just toss that thing up to Mike Evans and be like, go get it, bud. Because he knew Mike Evans was coming down with that ball. Like you had the same thing a couple years ago with Florida State and Keon Coleman. Like Keon Coleman was just going to go get that ball. Like that dude was unbelievable at that. And you saw it even this year a little bit, even though physically Keon Coleman as a wide receiver, not super impressive. He ran a little slow. He's not that big. But he gave, like, you could tell Josh Allen trusts Keon Coleman when he puts that ball up there.
You know, one of the reasons I'm a not closet so much anymore, a diehard Josh Allen guy?
Why is that?
Because it's never been smooth sailing for him.
Yeah.
And he just keeps incrementally working on things that he needs to complete his game. I'm a huge.
It hasn't always looked like I wanted it to, but I've come around on him.
And you know what? He's okay with that.
Yeah. But he's gotten better too. Like he's cleaned up a lot of things I had problems with.
I'm a huge Allen guy.
Before we get out of this, I do want to touch on Nebraska tonight. They are
I don't remember Jerry Rice having to win a lot of 50-50 balls. No. I'm talking about
Owens did though.
Oh yeah.
Terrell Owens fought for the ball
because he was and they're two different guys, right?
Physically they're very different builds.
Rice was the precise route runner, and you knew if you had to throw him a little skinnier, bang eight, or those slants.
And when I say a 50-50 ball, I don't always mean a jump ball, right? Yeah. Like I mean, okay, Jerry Rice is right next to a corner on a route. They're at a 50-50 position right there. Jerry Rice is going to win the route.
Yeah.
Right? It's not always about winning the ball. Sometimes it's about winning the route. And as a quarterback, knowing before the route is won that you can throw it. I do want to get to Nebraska. This is a bet on it segment. They're 1.5 point favorites. Did that move across zero? I thought Penn State was favored in this one.
Didn't they open it? I think they open as the favorite.
Did they? Okay, maybe I just can't read. Nebraska's a 1.5-point favorite. My guy Ken Palm's got him as a 1-point game.
Well, you and Kenneth are boys.
Well, I like it when there's a gap of like 2 points. Then I usually will go, and that's something I'll like to make a play on.
So what does Kenneth have?
Kenneth's got it at 1, so it's right there. It's right there for Nebraska and Penn State.
Yeah, that's a money line play.
I think 100%. That's what
that's a Nebraska money line.
That's just what I was gonna say. I like Nebraska.
I doubt that's what you were gonna say.
You know I like the money line under 2 points.
I know you do.
That's my vibe. I'm going Nebraska on the money line.
I don't feel that's not like I don't love it.
What do you have any you like today?
I like Bama.
Bama?
Speaking of
bounce back?
Yes. I like Bama. I think you have to take them on the money line because you can maybe still get plus money. Where is it? Where's Bama?
Bama, they are a 1.5-point dog at Missouri today.
Yeah, I like Bama.
Bama on the money line. I got Nebraska on the money line.
And I take the points too. I'd play both. You're going to get the free 1.5, and the money. I would take both.
See if you can get some of those same game parlays going on.
Hey, make up those 2 units from yesterday, folks.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. We'll be back to wrap up the show next.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends over at Centris Federal Credit Union. It might be that time of year. You're looking around, Christmas is a few months in the rear view. Maybe you're looking at a little nice tax refund. You're like, I might need a new vehicle. Centris Federal Credit Union can help you out with an auto loan and get you in the vehicle you need. Maybe you're running around in the snow and you're like, I might need something a little bit more reliable to get started on these cold days when it's -10 outside. Centris Federal Credit Union has you covered. Go to centrisfcu.org to talk with one of their experts about their auto loan options. That's centrisfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. DB?
That's it.
I would maybe like a little insurance here on this Penn State game.
I'm telling you, I like Nebraska on the money line.
I do too.
I can't give you any assurances though, because I like it. I like it a lot.
Don't love it.
I don't love it, but love is tough. You know me.
Big tough love guy.
I am actually.
I know.
I mean, that's 100%.
Here's my problem.
A little jaded.
Can I? Like Aerosmith, jaded.
Is that Aerosmith?
Jaded? Yeah.
I don't know Aerosmith.
That's all right. I know some of their songs. It's a modern Aerosmith song. It's like 2000 somewhere. It's a late Aerosmith entry into the discography there. Discography.
Yeah, it's not the classic stuff.
Are they still calling it that, even though it's not on disc?
Discography,
so.
Yeah.
It's like how they call them albums, even though it's not.
I haven't heard from you all morning, and you want to chime in
Good
over
morning,
some goddamn
Shane.
music? You look like an Eskimo over there.
I
can't
like,
put my arms down.
I feel like a penguin.
Why is he dressed like that?
I think he's cold. It's cold over by the windows. From the windows to the wall, So there's this is a very specific thing. Maybe this is a loser mentality. I don't know, but we're going to find out. I don't like playing teams on long losing streaks.
Yeah, I know.
Especially in conference.
You feel like at some point it's going to come to an end.
Well, especially because, you look at these last 7 games. So they've lost their last 7 for Penn State, 11 of their last 12. About half of those are real games in terms of 6 points to Indiana, 1 point to Oregon, 5 points to Michigan State, 1 point to Iowa, 4 points to Michigan State, 8 points to Minnesota, 2 points to Washington.
So outside of the repetitive Michigan State, there's 3 teams you mentioned that you can't even cap.
Yeah.
Nor can I.
It's just a crapshoot.
Indiana. Excuse me.
Flip a coin.
Indiana, Iowa, and
Minnesota?
No.
Indiana, Iowa, Oregon?
Yes.
Yeah. Flip a coin. Let the gods decide. We have no idea.
Like those, I don't fudge.
Like, that concerns me because they're not.
Slow down, Ace Baldwin. Do that.
They have not. They clearly have not rolled over because they're still fighting in these games.
Yeah.
And if you're on a long losing streak and they haven't quit yet, that's not a great place to be, especially in conference. The gap, Penn State was 12-2. Same place Nebraska was when they went on their 6-game losing streak.
I get it.
Ironically enough, right? You think anybody wanted to play Nebraska on the back end because you saw they were still fighting? That's not a place you want to face a team.
So at what point do you say, I don't want to be number 4 in a row. I don't want to end the 5 in a row.
Honestly,
anything
6 in a row. After 3, I want them to get a win before they play me. That's just how I feel because they're still fighting. This is a team that has not given up. And so I don't want anything to do with that, especially at home. And they're trying to salvage something of their season. They're not an NCAA tournament team, but going to the NIT is a win for Penn State.
I don't know. They just folded a lot in second halves.
Yeah, I don't think that's quitting. They're just bad. There's a difference.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you think they're giving? They might be a little mentally weak in those situations. They're like, here we go again. I don't know.
It's so hard for me to discern between not good enough and emotionally soft.
Yeah, it is hard to tell. It really is. Because sometimes they look very similar, especially in basketball.
And when you're actually, I think it shows up in football.
You think so?
Yeah, when you're kind of wilty and wimpy, it looks like you're not playing very hard.
No, I agree that it looks like you're not playing very hard, but I think I can tell better in football if you're just bad versus not playing hard.
So, what was Nebraska's first half against Northwestern?
I think they were just bad.
See, I hated their effort.
That's fair.
That's what I was mad. I said that real time. I'm like, why would they come out like this?
Yeah.
I didn't yell text, but well, maybe I did.
All caps.
No, I don't.
It wasn't all caps.
Should I start doing that?
No, I don't like the all caps texters.
Yeah, I'm not that dude.
It's not about that life.
Now, you're lucky to get a capitalized I. No, I'm just playing. I do try to text correctly.
Lucky to get any punctuation whatsoever.
I'll even correct a misspelling the next text.
Except for yesterday, you texted me.
I know, Bartholomew.
Yeah.
I don't know why it auto-corrected Barthel.
Because it's not as common as.
I read it. And listen, I was embarrassed. Did I say my bad? Because I hate my bad. I wouldn't have said that. I should have been like, oh, that's on me. Because I said, hey, just reread it. Because it was so much.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go back and explain it.
Right.
So I was like, no, just reread it. And you're like, oh, okay, I got it. And I was like, I told him to reread. I should have reread before I hit send. I said Bartholomew.
I almost said something snarky, but it was the thing you wanted me to reread was different than the Bartholomew. So that part made sense when I went back and got it. But no, I hate being in the spot. If you're in Nebraska, even though I like them in this game.
Well, just play it safe and take Bama.
No,
going against everybody's coach of the year.
I'm
not down on him for being coach of the year.
For Missouri?
Yeah.
You like him better than Golden?
No.
For coach of the year?
No.
I think
I'm not like.
No, I'm not hating on him, but I think I'm going Golden.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hey, Mark, that's Mr. Messier.
I'll say that's not till tomorrow.
So their partnership with the ESPN has really put them back front and center.
It helps.
Good on you, Hockey.
It helps. It helps when you have people advocate for your sport, your league, your program.
Just a few years too late for my man Melrose.
Melrose Place?
No.
Barry.
Shout out, Barry.
He passed, didn't he?
Yes.
R.I.P. Pouring out.
That's what I said, a few years too late.
Well, I just thought maybe it wasn't working anymore.
Sure.
But then I remembered he passed.
What message must Sidney Crosby deliver to his teammate, Shane?
Hey, we need 4 fights in the first 10 seconds.
No,
not just 3.
They're gonna get it in.
I've got the message.
It's a pick'em.
Here's the message. I'm not that old. That's what it is. That's what he's
That's what
telling
you want
us.
Sid to say?
That's what Sid's saying to his team.
Hey,
I mean, like I said the other
in
day.
my best Avery Johnson voice, pass the puck to McDavid.
Like I said the other day, they are sure putting him on front and center.
Remember when he's like David, bro? Pass the ball to David. All right,
He's got it.
Pass the puck to McDavid.
Remember when Avery Johnson coached Alabama?
Oh yeah,
that was a wild time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember. You want a bad line?
Yeah.
What would you make St. John DePaul?
$1 million.
It's in. I guess they call it Chicago.
I don't care where it's at. It's got to be. 14 and a half.
It's 12.
That's low. I thought 14 and a half was low.
Pretty gross.
I'd probably make that in like the 20s.
Pretty gross.
Let's see what old Kenneth Pomeroy has to say about it.
He'll probably be close.
You think he'll be close to the 12?
Yeah.
Survey says
10, 11, 12.
Right on, 12, 76, 64.
So maybe that's right.
Maybe. I don't know. DePaul's bad.
Boy, you know how you get those like 12 minutes where DePaul looks functional?
Yeah.
4, 6, 8.
And St. John can't shoot.
Yeah. I don't know.
Dude, did you watch CJ Wilcher go ham last night?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
He didn't know a Cajun, though.
I have a hard time watching St. John's. I don't enjoy it.
Nobody can
You're
do that.
so mad.
It's just the style of basketball that I hate.
That's fine.
I hate it.
Who were you cheering for? You're cheering for Neptune to get fired, or your beloved Hurley's last night?
No, I would hate that. Neptune.
Me too, Matt. I don't call him Matt. I just say coach.
Neptune getting fired doesn't move the needle for me. I just don't think he's any good. So I don't care if he gets fired. That doesn't matter to me at all. I'm always rooting for the worst things to happen to Dan Hurley. Always.
Oh, that's tough.
And like professionally, I don't want anybody in his family to get hurt or anything. But like professionally,
yeah, because I don't know if you know, his wife does his showers or cleans his briefs on the road because they win a lot. They can't go home. She does his laundry.
Good for him. Cool. Like I don't care about that.
I'm so sick of hearing that story.
At all. That's nice. Learn how to do your own laundry, Dan.
Hashtag.
I've been listening to Coach Hurley, Danny Hurley, a lot.
Like they have equipment managers and stuff, right? Like just throw your drawers in there, Like you don't have to make your wife do it. Hey, honestly, feels a little misogynistic.
Read our mutual friend. I love him. He's a funny dude. And he called me a hater yesterday.
You are a hater.
Because I was out on Red Panda?
Yes. No. I agree. And there's no way she is the age that her Wikipedia says she is. Full circle here this morning.
Are you dang, that's all right, Ryan. I wonder what so are you nervous?
For Nebraska?
Yeah. Do you have anxiety?
I don't. I mean, in general, yes.
Well, you have heartburn?
No, it's not.
I have a little anxiety.
I would feel dramatically better if Penn State had lost like 6 of their last 7 rather than 7 in a row.
Okay.
And maybe I'm making a stupid distinction.
I hate your rationale, but I'll ride with it because at some point it's got to come to an end.
Yeah,
every time it's next
more
game,
likely.
It's more likely.
And I'm the same way, like Butler's been on long losing streaks coming in with Creighton before, and I just go, listen, they're not so bad that they're not going to never win again.
Yeah.
Right? Penn State isn't so bad they're not going to lose out. They're not going to lose their last 5 games of the season. Like I would bet on that for sure. So at some point, somebody's going to take a bad loss.
Let me give you one more because I don't think the line is right.
What do we got?
Unless you just think Boise is a monster.
Okay.
So New Mexico's 22-4. It's a good team.
Yep.
New Mexico is getting points at Boise. What would you make that game?
New Mexico at Boise. 2.5.
It's 4.5. It opened 2.5.
That's a little heavy.
Seems like it.
It's a little heavy.
Do you have to play Boise? Is that how people in Wait, where is Boise? Boise?
It's in Boise.
Okay, I was sounding it out in my head. Is it okay if I think out loud?
Where is Boise? It's in Boise.
I was going to eventually say that.
It's in Idaho.
Yeah, I mean,
You should ask me where Boise was.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, Sam.
Shut up, Shane.
We'll need those guys to play well.
It's not. I was thinking as saying the words out.
To me, that sounds soft.
It's a little funny.
Gosh.
So this is Ken Palm's got this at 2. So there's a 2.5 point difference there. Anything above 2, I start to think about.
I watched this conference a lot. It doesn't look right.
You watch a lot of Mountain West?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, primarily, I mean, Nick does a lot of those games.
Yeah, I think you got to go. I go New Mexico here.
Do you?
Yeah, because if Ken Palm's got it their other way, he's got it closer to the 2.5.
And you're thinking you're getting a free 2.5.
I think the public has artificially inflated the money.
Okay,
that's where I'm at.
The more you know.
Well, I don't know if I know, but I know Boise's in Idaho.
Well, you think if you always take the free money. That's why you're rich.
I love free money. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live tomorrow.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.